Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of an interview. This episode is brought to you by IKOstrips. Now, IKOstrips is the future of CBD delivery. They make nanofiber dissolvable CBD strips. You put under your tongue, they melt away, and they deliver CBD oil in the fastest way possible into your system. And I use this product. I stand behind this product. I use it for my anxiety, but you can use it for many ailments. If you feel you need CBD oil, IKOstrips will provide that CBD oil in the fastest way possible. Please go to IKOstrips.com, which is IKOstrips.com, and place your order today. Also, this episode is brought to you by JG's CBG's Cigar Box Guitars. Now, these are custom-built cigar box guitars, ukuleles, mandolins, or whatever string instrument that will work with a cigar box. I don't have the whole list because I don't make them, but you know who does? Master builder John Garver. We have a couple of them in the house here. So if you would like to have your own custom-built cigar box guitar, please contact John Garver at jsgarver63@yahoo.com or on Facebook at JG's CBG's. You can shoot him a message or shoot him an email and let him know that Stevie sent you. Now, on this episode of an interview was a very good friend of mine and also saxophone player for a lot of my musical adventures. We had a great discussion that dove into pretty much everything except music. And we dived down many different rabbit holes. So please sit back and enjoy an interview with Ronjae.
Whitehall.
Living up to their name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Hall of White. The Hall of Justice. No, the Hall of White.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Mr. Ronjae.
Hey.
How you doing, buddy?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there, you know.
This is quite the impromptu interview.
Impromptu.
Yeah, you were hitting me up, see if what's going on around the lake, Stevie.
Yeah, what's going on? And I'm like, maybe I go and see how's the lake. You know? But you know,
I coerced you into coming over and doing the podcast.
Yeah, because I started thinking, oh, you just got off work. I don't want to, bother you if you know.
Well, when I plan these, I always plan them around work.
Oh, okay. Well, it makes it easier.
Anya's home. She just yelled birthday card. She got another birthday card. In the mail.
Wow.
Yeah, it's her birthday week.
Oh, birthday week.
Yeah,
okay.
her birthday was Monday. We had the party Friday at Louis' Corner House.
Oh, yeah.
With Charles Seeley.
Mr. Seeley. That's the cat.
Oh, I mean, he did such a great job.
That's the cat. I miss all them birds. That's right. And the cats. And I was waiting for him. He only got cats in there when he got a dog. The dog barks, the rooster crows, and the birds tweets.
Yeah.
Right. You need to add some cats in there. I know it's a cat somewhere.
This song is for my cats.
Yeah, it's for the cats. It's like, we just go ahead and get all the farm animals in there, add a little squealing pig, all like that. And then we just go ahead. And then at the end of it, after, is that the one that's not Country Roads? Is that Country Roads?
Yeah.
Yeah, Country Roads. Yeah, and after that, go straight into Old MacDonald. That's how it works. Old MacDonald had a farm. Yeah.
I left my phone. No, thank you.
Hola. See.
That's that was some Anya language right there.
Yes. Well,
Anya-nese. I don't know what you call that.
Onion-ese.
Oh no, never mind.
Oh no. That would not be.
Maybe that's not the never mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember I used to talk to this girl, and she said that this was when I was in high school, and the only way that we could talk, we would kind of use, what is it called, that Pig Latin.
Oh yeah, where you put the beginning of the word.
Beginning
at the
the
end.
word at and you say aye, ante, uye, yeah. So you take the first letter, put it at the end,
and add
an A on it, yeah. So that's how we was talking, because her parents was like always listening to everything, so we was up there talking pig Latin. Nobody knew what we was talking about. I was good at it too.
People say that Pig Latin, they don't know what
It probably
we're saying.
ain't Pig Latin, but she proved to me that
is Pig Latin even real? Is that like is that a made up language, or is there like a nation of piglians?
Nation of the pigs?
Piglians. I'm gonna look that up.
I mean, I think it's called. I think they call it a lost language. It's not really lost because everybody still talk about it, but nobody don't make it part of their language. As in saying, I come from Pygmies or Pygmies or something like that, and now you're stuck with talking. It's like after a while you be like, I auntie e. I'm like, that's enough of them A's. Cut it out. Just cut it out.
It sounds like a language made up by 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's why I'm very curious to see
what
this is.
I was pretty good at it because Pig Latin. Tough part about that one is when you start getting into this is all high school. Was it high school? Yeah, that's right. I was in high school.
Pig Latin Google search. A made up language formed from English by transferring the initial it just describes it. But it says it's a made up language. So no,
I don't think it's there's a country of pigs.
That's where all the
well, we ain't going there today.
Country of pigs, Ronjae.
Country of pigs.
Do Blue Lives Matter?
Yeah, well they do. It depends on what country you in.
Pigland. Wow.
It's like down on Bird Street. Dun, 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 down on me. Yeah.
Wow.
We went there. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we sure did.
So early in this whole cast, he went straight to the blue line.
Well, you kind of set
me up. Can't you let me marinate
it? No, man.
Oh, that's right. You a cook.
I asked the hard question.
You asked the hard question. Oh, my. It's like, I'm the captain.
No, we'll marinate it in the finest juices.
It sounds so juicy.
I don't think I've ever heard you do that voice.
You probably won't. You better capture it now.
During Rick Barr's podcast, he got a phone call, and his ringtone is a song off his own album.
Wow. If you're proud of it, then you got it. I mean, That's just like...
I guess I'm just
most ringtones, because I remember, and that's when I used to work for Verizon, not going that deep into it. But yeah, I used to work for them, and we used to set up all the new ringtone... I think it was a ringtone system. So we tested them out. So basically, if somebody wanted to set up their mom with the ringtone, it was like, you can choose whatever song you want for her. So that was that whole system. I think it was like maybe 2001 when we started doing that, but yeah.
And so when you worked with Verizon, was that IT that you were doing there?
Yeah, network operations and network analysts. So we did a lot of stuff that people don't know. We were the ones before they really it was before 9/11. So I started in 94. We were doing the triangulations of phone. So if you had like a fake phone or something like that, we'd actually go out. We didn't go out, but we would actually triangulate the real phone from the fake phone. So
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, every phone has a electronic serial number. So it was called an ESN. You can look on the back of your phone, pull your little StarTAC battery out, and you can see the actually ESN. So people would actually have fake phones that have a different ESN. So I would say which one actually is being billed and which one wasn't. So anytime that the signal would go up, it actually, because I can put a tracker on it. So I would track that ESN that was wrong, and then it would tell me what vicinity that actual cell phone was in. And then from that point, we notify the authorities. The authorities will actually go search the area if the person was hanging out or blah, blah, blah. But we were pretty good at what we did.
You were doing that in 1994?
94, 95, 96. That's before 9/11, because that's when the whole cellular system became a national infrastructure. So now we had to send all the call detail records, the CDRs, and all that stuff to the feds, because we have to keep a copy. They'd have to have 6 months worth of call detail records. So we were, and then they came in. This was the crazy stuff, is that they'd come in like maybe once a year, and we ran a dedicated line. All the techies out there, they might say, what kind of line is it? It's X.25. X.25 that ran to a system that actually went straight out to, what was it, Langley is CIA. It was the other one. I forgot who it was. But it went out to Washington, D.C. It was a direct line to them. So basically, they'd have some field agents come in, and we took the field guys out with them. They put a black box inside of our MTSO, which is mobile telephone switching office, and they would run different type of calls. So they'd say names. They'd say, this was after 9/11. They'll say something like, they'll speak in a language, whether it's, I don't know.
Just some random.
Allah Akbar. Something like that, So when that happened, or if it's something that sound like it could be a terrorist type of conversation, it'll automatically pick up what phone it is, who owned the phone. They'll find out where the dedicated line is, and based upon the way things were, I can tell you exactly where the person was when they was calling.
So who chooses, who chooses the language that could possibly be a...
Well, it could be any language. It can be English, anything. It's just as in saying that, because let's say, for instance, they had like they're on the watch list, and they actually have a phone. So when they have a watch list and they're on a phone, that's always being... I don't want to say always being monitored, because I might be wrong for you federals. So
I don't know,
because it's different now.
Edward Snowden says that.
Well, actually, Edward Snowden, he was a analyst, and that was some of the stuff where he was talking about those different type of tapes where people can actually listen. That was part of my jobs too. Whereas,
no shit.
Yeah, we had to make sure that the lines, or the dedicated trunks, they call them voice data lines, work, so they didn't have any static or anything like that. So we were all FCC, which is a Federal Communication Commission. It's been a while. So FCC, everybody know what the FCC is. So FCC only allowed a person to listen to a conversation no more than 15 seconds. So we would actually listen to random conversation. People can be out there listening or talking, because I remember we were taking down a system, and this guy was talking to this girl, said, "Girl, I love you like the new pair of shoes." I'm like, click, you ain't talking about nothing. I'm trying to work here. So I actually pulled down the whole cell site. Why? Yeah, I pulled down the cell site.
So you're telling me,
yeah,
that you guys are pretty much eavesdropping.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But legally,
right,
because
but what's legally? I mean,
command.
Like for example, let me hash this out. It kind of ties into my question before, like who chooses? This is the person we're listening to. This is, that person speaking this language is the person we're going to focus on. They're on our watch list. I mean,
right.
The guy talking to his girl about the shoes.
Right.
What watch list is he on, and how do you tap into his thing?
Right.
Where's that line at?
There's a difference between monitoring trunks and then having people that might be a threat to national security. So a threat to national security is saying that based upon the conversation, it can be, and that's why I said there was a black box that was brought in. So that technology was not for us as the switch engineers or the people that was over the system. It was federals coming in and check things out to make sure it worked, and then they took it back home. That was that link that was going there, that any kind of conversation, they can grab hold of that trunk and monitor it.
So it's almost like a Big Brother situation type of thing.
Yeah. Well, Big Brother, they got a whole huge computer, and that's another thing. There's a whole system that we would actually route things over to Colorado. I think that's where Snowden was working too. But there's a system that because once 9/11 hit, it didn't matter what it was. It was if you had cellular service, landline system, they all became a national infrastructure. Because before we didn't have barriers to, if somebody wanted to run into the switch or the MTSO when I was working there before 9/11, they can run into it and blow it up. But after 9/11, they start putting the fake front of the building that was the distance of so far. So you couldn't go straight into you couldn't run into a operation system or a clean room and take down the whole network. But we've had women that climbed up on the tower and said they were going to jump. I was on call. That was another one, but I don't want to go into that.
You can climb the tower. You just you say you say that fake front, and all I can imagine is that scene in Men in Black when he walked into that big room. Like before he went to the elevator, had that big, I don't know, looked like a speaker on the wall, and that one security guard just sitting there.
Just sitting there, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I imagine when you say that that barrier between, the actual infrastructure of the.
Yeah, well, before you can just walk, you can open up the door, and then you're into the main clean room, or I call it the clean room, but it's an operation room. So you had all had all the data cables, the network, and everything like that, and you had the fiber optic rings that was running all the way up to the towers and everything like that. So if you take that out, it's gone. But after 9/11, they were like trying to protect all the possible. If they wanted to take out all the network, if they wanted to take out all the communication for Verizon at the time, it was Cellular One, Verizon, Vodafone, AirTouch, whatever you want to call it. We went through so many names during that. I worked there for almost 12 years, or a little bit, almost close to 14. So we changed so many different names. So, yeah.
That's a very interesting aspect of you. Like am I talking to?
We do have
how
different.
Many people did you bring down, Ronjae? Or did you help bring down?
Well, we did. We did have a guy that was like, he was trying to sell missiles in Cincinnati, and
what?
Yeah, it was some crazy.
Was
stuff
that one of those people that you heard like? I worked in the conversations. You're like, this is a red flag.
No. This was before 9/11. We had, if a lot of people might not know, where it was AirTouch Verizon that was up in Dublin. There was 2 buildings, and our operation system, our operation team, the NOC, Network Operations Center, worked in that area. So we worked there before I got assigned to the actual building. We get this fax that came in from the judge and that's the whole thing. You have to have a judge approval to actually do any unauthorized or work to track somebody down. We had somebody that lost, the daughter got kidnapped. We had to track her phone. She was stuck in a trunk and all this. It's a lot of stuff that we were doing to triangulate, because what it is cell towers. There's a different alpha, beta, gamma. So we have to isolate what side that she's on, what's the RSSI, which is the radio signal strength, and it would actually tell us how close and how far it is, so we can actually overlay a map that tells you where they should be, what street they should be on. Yeah,
that's so cool. That's some
that
sounds like a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stuff. I worked the night shift, so everything was happening that night. So I would do software.
It was a hot time to work.
Oh, it was hot time to work. That's where people talking all that smoothly talk, baby. I want you to come to the house. I want you to be here. And I'm like, I'm trying to work on this site. Your conversation is over. So
if you wanted to, could you interrupt?
Oh yeah, that was
man.
Yeah, well, we could.
The girl's not interested, bro.
Right. There was some times where it was some emergency stuff that happened where, they had to get a judge to approve, because if for some reason it was an emergency on a person, they couldn't get a hold of them, and then we get approval saying that we can break into the line. We'll say, hey, someone's trying to get a hold of you. Please, can you call this? So we would actually, because there was a Mon talk and a Mon listen. So monitor talk mean I can actually talk to the person. Mon listen tell me that I'm listening to the conversation. So those are commands that I would put in to actually create the open space. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And also phones actually do that, but nobody really know. Well, now it's in the CDMA, LTE type stuff, but most phones, they have a thing called blank and burst. It's always telling where your location every 15 seconds. It's saying that, I'm here.
Even if you have GPS off or location?
Even if you got GPS. Well, because you're connected to a site.
All
the
right.
site itself is telling
what tower.
What tower.
You go back to that triangulation.
Right, because the phone is
again.
just going to... A phone has the antenna that says, I'm here, and it'll catch anything within roughly about 2.5 miles or so. And the nearest tower is going to say, oh, I got him. So everybody else, shut up. As in every other tower that's trying to grab them, I got them because I'm closer to them.
Gotcha.
And then as long as you're not driving around doing either handoffs from one sector to another, if you're in one area, it's going to say the last location was here. And that automatically become a CDR, which is called detailed record.
What you're describing, is this something to do with what Edward Snowden kind of blew the whistle on?
Right. That
the eavesdropping, every person's being listened to. So, does the phone have to be active? Do you have to be talking to someone on a call for them to listen to you? If they wanted to tap into my shit right now and listen to our podcast, could they do that?
I think, and this is just me being who I am, based upon long years ago, you had to actually be in a conversation or a call. And also, it was, in my degree is in advanced telecommunications, which is dealing with one vibration, noise, stuff like that, frequencies. So I know that if somebody wanted to listen, they got that AWACS and they can feel the vibration off of a window. They can take that information and actually have a fluid, easy conversation because it's vibrations. Just like you throw a pedal inside of an ocean, it creates a wave.
Yeah.
You won't see the wave on the far 5 miles, but it still have a wave.
Right, and if you're within that, the area of where that wave is still effective, you can collect the information from the wave, right, and do some math and figure out where that wave started from, what caused it, or about what weight size, whatever caused that wave. But when you talk about vibrations, like vocal vibrations, you can compress that and just like a record,
right,
and listen to whatever.
Yeah, whatever it said, because it creates a pattern or a skip or whatever you want to call on the needle or so. But there's another way you can do it is laser, because we did a a laser. How did we do it? We created that was part of my science project too, or senior project. We would actually, because our job was to figure out how we can transport sound or audio. So let's say, for instance, if I wanted to transport what I'm saying, so I can hit a pen laser or whatever that is, laser
pointer.
Laser pointer. Yeah. You can hook that up to an actual microphone, an output, and you can point that laser into a what is it, like and not an LED, but it basically it'll absorb the laser and then have an output that's connected to a speaker, and you would hear the actual audio.
That's opticals.
Opticals, yeah.
Yeah, that like an
fiber optics, but without the action. This is a totally different. You don't have a physical except for the light itself. So you're not having a transport. I'm sorry, I'm using big words.
No. Well, I can handle it, Ron.
You don't have a transport of glass connected from here to there. If that laser beam can go all the way across mileage, and you have the other end with a solar, I think it was a solar panel or some type of cell that would actually absorb the light, and then you connect it to a speaker plus an output or a power source, you can actually hear what's said on the other end. You could be miles away. Long as that laser it's line of sight. That was the whole thing. And that's what we have right now. Microwaves are line of sight. Those little drums that you see on the tower, those are actually microwaves. So there's one that runs in Reynoldsburg, because I was over those. In Reynoldsburg, it can communicate to Mount Vernon. So those are line of sight. So I would actually line those up so they can communicate back and forth. Yeah.
So
That's so.
with this knowledge that you have of this sort of technology,
I should be good at sound, right? And no, totally different thing. You know?
No, well, that's not what I was going to ask.
Okay,
What I was going to ask, that was funny though.
You should know what it sounds like, right? You should be all right with your saxophone sounding like it's not flat, right? No.
Man, Ronjae, you're
I
just
know.
full of insecurities tonight.
Oh, well, I got securities and insecurities.
No, but like, my question is like, how do you feel about, the government watching or listening
Oh, yeah,
or things like that, knowing that, what which I'm sure is probably the skim of the surface, or maybe
It's just
maybe
a
a
skim.
few
Things
layers
that
underneath. But
yeah, it's just.
how do you feel about that? Like, do you take extra precautions with this, or you kind of fall into the category of, well, if they want to listen to my conversation, me talking, saxophone.
Yeah, I'm not a threat. That's the whole thing. But they can create you as a threat. But I'll put it this way. Long years ago, we had a chance to get it right. But with the way they're making the iPhones, you can't take a battery out and all this stuff unless you crack it, put it in the microwave. That's it. But look at what's happening right now. It's AI and intelligence with these phones. I mean, you can say, hey, what is your Hey Siri or whatever, and then also
Google.
Yeah, or Hey Google, Hey Siri, Hey Alexa. Well, how does it pick that up without listening?
Trigger words. So,
Right, but it has to have something that
the mic's always on.
It's always hot.
Yeah,
it's always hot. Your phone is always hot, and then also, I mean, it's always
if you allow it to be.
Okay,
Is that what? But that's the
sure.
you put that accept button on any app that you download, and all of a sudden, all these things have access to your microphone. I mean,
right.
Facebook Messenger,
Mm-hmm.
has that. But as you said, these things that you accept,
Mm-hmm.
even though they call them, the trigger words or keywords, whatever, that turns it on. Well, the thing's on anyway.
Yeah.
It's always listening to you.
There's two paths that happen in a conversation. One's talking, one's listening. And no matter how you place it, even if you're saying something, it's still listening on the other end. That's just like a cell phone. Right now, like I said, every 15 minutes you can see. Before, it used to tell you what cell site you're on, what RSSI, which is what signal strength that you have and how far you are from the closest tower. So the phone is always communicating. You can turn it off, but have you ever had a phone where you turn it off and all of a sudden it just turned back on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had that happen.
Right, because it's just internally you can actually trigger things that make it seem like it was a button that was pushed. Because all you're doing is hold the button down for a certain amount of time. But in general, frequencies are frequencies. You can create, I mean, that's just like a remote control. Is your TV on or is it off? But once you hit the power button, oh, it was on. It's always on.
Right. Well, and TVs always now also have that.
Right. It connects to the network.
That two-way. I mean, for me, like I turned it off. Like it doesn't have voice command, but is it still on? You know?
It's always on unless you actually unplug it. And lately, how do you unplug a iPhone or you try to take the battery out. Well, how
or let it die.
Or let it die, something like that where there's no source of power. That's the only way you can do it. But me in general, how do I feel about it? I'd say let them have it. Because unless you feel like you're a threat, I mean, there's a big brother complex of it. They shouldn't be doing it. There should be some kind of law or rule or anything like that, constitutional right. But what I learned about the Constitution these latest days,
if you're not guilty, you have nothing to worry about.
No, even if they can make you guilty all you want. That's just like one of the guys that was on my team. He had a flight simulator. He looked like he was Iranian, but he was Jewish. Good old American Jewish. And the cleaning lady came in and seen that he had this flight simulator up on his computer. And the first thing she did was call the authorities, and then next thing you know, Homeland Security, because it was good and hot and ready after 2001, after the 9/11, and we were working on a project somewhere, and then a cleaning lady came into the hotel, his room, and this flight simulator was just it wasn't the game that was up. It just happened to be his screensaver.
Right.
And
so
she seen a cockpit, and the guy seemed to be looking like he's Iranian or looking as he could be a threat to the nation. They called the authority. The authority, I'm like, where were you at? Man, they had me down there at the blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, did you give him your green card? I was just joking.
Oh,
no.
Well, first of all, Jewish is a religion.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to say Jew. He's Jew. He's Jew. It's a religion. But also, he was of Jewish descent, and he had the, it wasn't, the Taliban, or at the time I forgot it was.
Right, but he had the darker skin. He had the features that could be confused for like a Muslim.
Right, Muslim. Yeah,
sort of, because that's where the Jewish culture.
Right, but everybody, and that's the thing about it, is that kind of goes into anybody. I don't know if you have a fear or a threat of somebody that makes you want to, assert your American authority to say, I'm going to make sure America is going to be taken care of. And you like how I said that?
That was a very offensive accent.
Well, I said America.
Stereotypical, Ronjae.
Yeah, well, I'm just being real. That's just what it is. America's being taken care of. And
America, I love it.
Yeah, well, I mean, right. You got your group. Yeah, your what is it?
Yosemite Sam.
Yosemite Sam's out there.
I'm the rootinest, tunest cowboy.
I'm the rootinest, tunest. Yeah, and then you got your what's the name that they call these women that want to call the cops on folks?
Karens.
Karens. Then you got your Karens. Karen.
Yeah,
Karen. She ain't Karen because she ain't Karen.
Oh, that should be a T-shirt.
So she ain't Karen.
You ain't a Karen unless you Karen.
I know.
It sounds like in defense of Karens. Actually.
Yeah. So
or she ain't Karen.
Obviously, you see what happened to the lady. I don't know if you heard about the one that was in New York. She got prosecuted because she tried to call the cops on this.
The dog.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah. He was out there bird watching. The dude got, I don't know how many degrees or whatever, but he was out there bird watching, and then he just said, please put your dog up. So he knew the system, as in saying, act like he's going to throw something at the dog because they don't want the dogs getting killed by other people. So that's what should have made her grab her dog and put him on a leash, because the sign was right there.
Yeah.
And said,
there's a video of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she up there tripping and all this stuff. I'm gonna call the cops. He's
well,
she freaked out.
She
I'm
randomly fell on the ground. Oh, his dog bit or something. Maybe that's not the right one I'm thinking.
Well, this is the one where she basically look it up right now.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. She
there it is.
That's it.
Yeah, she's holding that dog.
I know. See if the dog trying to get away, choking the dog.
He's recording me and threatening myself and my dog. I'm sorry, I can't hear you now. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wow. That's weird.
Karen ain't Karen.
Karen ain't Karen. Shit.
Right. She just mad because somebody told her the rules and regulations that you should be mindful of, because they said the dogs were just running through the bushes and tearing up the grass and all like that. So they said, leash your dogs.
Right.
Put your dogs on a leash. Don't have them run all over the place. So the bird watcher basically just said, he faked like he was going to throw some snacks to the dog so they can put the dog on a leash. So she was like, she freaked out.
And damn near choked her dog out doing it.
Yeah, choked the dog out. Now, dude,
I think she lost. She lost.
Yeah,
she lost the dog.
Adopted
the dog.
Yeah, the guy's a bird watcher. He's a professor. I mean, that's the thing about it, is that when people call for the lease, amount just because you feel like you're upset for something. That's crazy. I mean, I seen one where this lady was upset because somebody was working on their car and was putting antifreeze in the car, and the antifreeze started leaking out. She was like, "Well, you shouldn't be working on your car here." And it's like, "Well, the car broke down, so I got to put I think the brother was visiting the sister or something like that, and then the chick called the cops on him. Nothing happened. But the whole thing is that she wanted something to happen when the cops showed up. 4 or 5, I think it was like 4 officers showed up while this guy up here trying to, and I mean, in the state of what's going on right now, calling on an African American male or Latina, could be anybody that just feel like,
the minority,
the
quote
unquote minority. When you call on them, you expect what? They're going to snap back in line. But that just makes you more angry with the whole system of things. It's saying that anybody can call on you, and then next thing you know, you're public enemy number one. No matter what your authority is, no matter if you have an education, similar to what happened with me, we'll go into that. But that's, that whole thing is saying that no matter what you go to, what kind of education you have, whatever, you can be switched from great citizen to now he's on lamb. He's running away from the law. Well, I wasn't running away from the law. I just left my office. That's another thing.
Well, I know what you're talking about, and we'll dive into that.
Yeah,
we'll dive into that in a second. But like the benefit of this, which goes actually back into the cell phone thing. The benefit of this constant surveillance is that it's also being put into people's hands. So, Karens like that.
Right.
No offense to anybody named Karen. I don't know why your name got chosen.
It
is what it is. Just accept it.
Well, that's just like Becky.
Well,
Becky's another name for. Well, in
100 years,
should I go into that name for Becky?
In 100 years, I don't reckon there's
those
going to be
who know
any
who Becky
Karens
is.
or Beckys. But she was put on surveillance and shown that she's overreacting.
Yeah,
to
he
this.
had a camera, and she was, still active,
So there's a positive to
out
this,
of pocket.
There's this positive to this constant surveillance.
Right.
As there is a negative.
Right.
And a negative is lack of surveillance.
Lack of surveillance, yeah.
Which I'm going to dive into your situation if you're cool with that.
Go with it.
All right. So, I don't know. Not many people.
You can set it up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Many people know this, but you were under investigation for over a year. For a criminal charge of breaking and entering and theft, right?
Correct.
Right. You wanna describe the situation?
I can describe the situation. I'll make it easy and plain. I look just like the guy. That's basically what it was. Simple and easy. I'm bald.
Uncanny.
I'm bald. I'm light-skinned, or with the camera, it's only a black and white camera, so you're either gonna have a dark person or a person with bright colors.
Right.
And he had a goatee. There's a lot of black men that when they get to a certain age, they lose their hair. They go bald. They decide not to be so bald, so they go with facial
the bald
hair.
and goatee.
Yeah, bald and goatee. So you can find a lot of me's everywhere. Just go ahead and put on a black and white camera, and guess what? Where's Waldo? Everywhere. But getting into the whole thing, just to make it easy.
The guy broke in.
He broke into the office next to the one that because we own a business that work with special needs. There's an office that's next to ours, not next to ours, but one building over.
Right.
Was broken into on it was Sunday. It was Sunday because that was the day that you worked. That's how we got to know each other.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. So he broke into it on Sunday. Open mic at GAT in Gahanna happened to be on Monday night, and I was going in from after the open mic was over. I went into the office to go get my CPR training manuals because I was certified as a CPR trainer, and decided to go into the office. While I was sitting in the parking lot getting ready to go in, there's an officer in a vehicle cruiser going to cruise up behind the car and stop and then start cruising on out. And then he sat somewhere. I'm not sure where he sat. He told me the whole story after the fact, and I'm like, I don't like playing these games because it's.
Your father kind of prepped you for this type
Oh,
of
yeah,
situation,
yeah.
didn't
My
he?
father always prepped me for everything. When we were young, he'd always say, when you go into this store, don't look around. You look in one place. Don't put your hand in your pockets, because if you got your hand in your pocket, they might think you got something in there. It's called, and when I studied it in college, it was called reverse racism. Black people would actually intentionally try to do something to make sure nobody put them in, think that they did something. So if I would have grabbed like a soda pop off the counter or something like that, and I walk around the place, and then I say, "No, I don't want to buy it," and I sit it in a place that where it wasn't, and then somebody say, "Oh yeah, he took a pop and he walked right out." So we have to, I say we, but me in general, I intentionally go back to the same place, put it into that spot so they can't say I took it or stole it or anything. It's sad because even to this day, where I'm like, I even teach my son that, as in saying that if you choose not my wife, different. She'll be like, I can do what I want. She probably eat grapes while she's she's eating food.
Well, it seems like a common thing that people would do,
right? As in,
from my perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's just I was raised. I went to a predominantly black school. It wasn't. We were Mexican and blacks, and we didn't have too many white students. We had one white guy that was on the track team. We call him the. This is bad, but not really bad. We just call him the 2 mile decoration, cause all the blacks, everybody was either the speedster, the fast guys. As soon as you get to 2 miles, it's like, look, my legs ain't ready for this. Get that cat over here, the one that's really good at what he do. He can run forever.
All right.
Yeah.
So
reel me back in.
We're gonna reel back in. So, your dad kind of prepped you, hey, if you see a cop creeping around, just finish your business and take off,
or just don't even get involved. Because the thing is that if I would have went into the building, I've got access to the building 24 hours a day. But the thing is that my thought was that as soon as I walk out, I'm gonna be laying on the ground somewhere. So my idea was saying that just go on home, deal with it later. So when I left, either he just didn't pay attention to me leaving, and after that I got some kind of a meeting at my house because he called the Pickering, this is Whitehall, he called the Pickerington police that he got my license and everything. He pulled me up, said I look like the guy, because obviously your license pull up,
Right.
And then I guess the guy that broke into the place, light-skinned, I mean, we did a whole research. The guy is not even aware. He had a Fu Manchu, whatever. That was lovely.
On camera, black bald goatee.
Right, on camera, black bald goatee.
Pull up your ID, black bald goatee.
And that's where you have to deal with, people. It's not saying that, because even when I looked at the guy, I'm like, wow, this is uncanny, because this guy is pretty, from angles, because the head shape, armor and everything like that. It's just saying that you could have been the guy. But since I was there, I said, yeah, we have an office next to it. We own a business that works out of there. We work with special needs. But by the time I got home, I get the Pickerington Police Department rolling up on me, because as soon as I park, 4 cops run into the cul-de-sac. I live in a cul-de-sac. Waking up all the neighbors. I don't care. I ain't got to be embarrassed. I don't care. You like it? I like it too. So I get out of the car. I say, I live here. They was like, get on. They didn't say get on the ground. They was like, we understand that, but you need to put your hands up. And I put my hands up, and then I turned backwards, and because I had a coat on, so I let the coat. I put my hands down, let it slide down my arms, and then put my hands back up and walk backwards to them. Then they cuffed me, put me in the car. My wife was like, what's going on? She come out the house.
Ronjae, what'd you do?
I know, yeah. And then, the neighbors, I'm sure they was looking out the window, because I have 2 neighbors at the time. One was a highway patrolman on one side of the cul-de-sac, and the other one was CPD. So by that, I'm sure they would have known. But they never talked to me about it. But they knew, what went down, but they didn't, say, hey, you all right, blah, blah, blah. And for a whole year, I had to go through a process of proving that I wasn't even there because that night, actually, it was February the 12th. I can tell you that because that was my wife's birthday. February 12th. You had a gig there.
Yeah, I had a gig at Adobe Gillis Easton.
Adobe Gillis, right.
Yeah, and it was the night, it was actually, yes, before I had my own sound system, I had...
Yeah, I know. You can say what you gotta say.
I had just gotten out of jail.
Yeah, you told me that. I was like, you just got out of jail, and I'm coming back in the next week.
we high-fiving on the way out.
We high-fiving on the way out.
No, but I was in jail for 30 days. And I had just gotten out. And it was my first gig, and I had to borrow a soundboard.
Sound.
You know, because Adobe has their own sound system. But I needed a board, and the board fried. I plugged it in, the whole thing just started smoking.
Wow.
And you know me, I always show up real early.
Yeah. I know. Trust me, I know. He ain't on black time. No, that's CP.
See, man, I got
CP. Well, you got me now. I'm gonna be real. I'm just gonna be real. You don't know CP until you know me. Okay.
So, I put a flag out on Facebook. You know that I need help. You know the soundboard that I have is not working, and I have a show in 45 minutes. You know, and Greg Madonka, 50 Shades of Greg.
Right.
You know, brought his system out. He helped me out. Right. And somewhere along the line, late at night,
it was 3 o'clock in the morning
on something, and I commented back immediately.
Right, because my whole thing is that I try to set up my shows and put out my fillers somewhere around, because I'm used to working night shift. So at nighttime around 3 o'clock, I always, either post up my, I'll be here. Ronjae is going to be here on a Sunday, and it just so happened I seen the message come in. We only met like once or twice or something like that. We weren't buddies. We were like, because we met through Rick Barr over at Papa Boo's. Yeah, you were I was playing a set with Rick Barr, and you were doing the breaks during that time. That's how we got to know each other.
And that's why I was doing Telltales.
Right, you were doing Telltales. That's right, you did Telltales.
Yeah, it's still,
right.
it's actually on this channel. It's this channel that we're on right now, but it used to be called Telltales. So anyhow, that interaction that you and I had was coincidentally right at the moment that they had him
3:02.
That they had him on camera walking into this building.
Right.
And your only defense, besides the fact that, well, you guys caught me breaking into my own building, apparently.
Right, yeah. I guess I'm stealing a $600 laptop, and I'm over all these other ones that's over. We got 3 or 4 of them that were like 900, 1,000, and I'm over the computers to make sure that they're, updated and all this stuff.
Right,
like, why would I steal a $600 computer? Okay, whatever.
So,
not saying that they're not good, but I'm just saying in general.
Right, I feel you, and there's no real evidence that this was you, but you were caught looking like.
Yeah, looking like the person, and then
in question.
Looking like the person in question.
And so the time that they have him on camera,
I'm texting. I say, hey, great show.
A response on Facebook that is
timestamped, saying that hey, I'm glad everything worked out for you, Stevie. Blah blah blah, and all this stuff.
And so that was pretty much like the grounds
that
of
was
your
the
argument.
Grounds of my argument.
And
but
you had to hit me up like, hey man, I don't know you very well, but you want to testify for me?
Yeah, you want to testify for me in court? With some Jello pudding. Yeah, like.
Well, you busting out Cosby already.
I can't help it, but he was he's probably doing it right now.
Yeah, he's having some pudding pops.
He's having some kind of pop.
So that's how I got tapped in this.
Right.
That's how I got
I had to ask you, could you come to meet my lawyer? I mean, actually, we had a lawyer before that one, which basically wanted me to plea it out, saying that, we can go to the lower plea. I like, I didn't do it. Why would I plea for anything? If, you can't beat the system, so, you throw money at it.
Right.
And fortunately enough, not everybody have enough of funds to try to not beat the system, but throw money at it to get a better lawyer, more time or anything like that.
So they'll take a plea to save their bank account.
Well, this guy, we already dropped, I think, already had and this is some ungodly amount of numbers. It just so happened that I worked in a field and a job that would be able to support it. If I didn't, I probably would still be incarcerated right now. I think we dropped almost just to hire him. He was a great lawyer to get you off, but it was $15,000. That was gone by mid-year. And then I had to give him another amount. And I said, this is crazy. He still want me to plea. I did 2 polygraphs, passed the polygraph, but the prosecutor was so adamant about saying that, yeah, he could probably pass a polygraph. So I took another polygraph. Then the judge said, if he passed another polygraph, you're going to have to just drop this case. I passed the 3rd polygraph, and then she still wouldn't release it. So that was the part where you were still involved in it.
Yeah.
I even got to the point where I knew about how to do a tracking. So I actually contacted Verizon to say, go ahead and put a CDR or check my call detail records on this time at this time. Now, I'm on the defense side. When the prosecutor asks for all that information, you get that stuff right away.
Right.
When I'm on the defense side, they were like, oh, there was no records found. I actually called, I can't say that. I'll leave that alone. I went above the process to actually get more information.
Yeah, because they didn't know who they was dealing with.
They didn't know who I was dealing with. I did that on a regular basis. I had judges contacting us to say, hey, we need, and just in case you might have, I was doing the job, okay? So I had judges contacting us saying that, hey, can you run a CDR, a detailed record, on this number at this time, and then it tells me what cell site, how long they were talking, and tell me the location. So from that point, I can say that person was actually on this phone at this time at this location. I requested that information from Verizon, and they said no records found. I'm like, well, how y'all doing the CDRs? I couldn't talk directly to them. I just had to put a request in.
Right.
If I was the person doing it, that's different. But nowadays, there's a data network versus a voice network. So they was pushing in voice calls versus data calls. Totally different things. Yeah. Sorry, getting deep.
Oh no! I enjoy this. I love diving into this aspect of it and hearing your struggle. It's insane that you had to do this because you were simply going into your building that you're part owner with, for your business.
Right.
And the day after a crime was committed,
after
a building over.
And mind you, here's the other part. I had a full beard because I was growing my beard out. The guy just had a goatee. I had facial hair from my ears all the way down. And they had a picture of me on Friday or that Monday that they snapped a picture of me because they released me. And then the guy, the officer said, well, I'll be back. Like Terminator or something. And then come Friday, because my wife is real diligent to make sure everything is right. She's real detail oriented. I can't say too much on me, but she's real detail oriented. And then she said, "Did you know they got a APB out on you, or what? You got a
warrant?
A warrant? Yeah, they put a warrant for my arrest on Friday. So everybody know, if you go in on Friday, you ain't coming out till Monday.
Yep.
And it was a holiday on Monday.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah. So
you ain't coming out till Tuesday.
But there's provisions for people that may have a little bit more cash flow. You get a lawyer, they talk to you. I got on Saturday. That was because,
you had the funds.
I had the funds to do it. If you don't have the funds, that's just like I was talking to a lot of guys that was in there, and everybody figured, oh, were you scared? Were you in there? It was like, look, everybody going through something.
Where were you at?
I was downtown at the
Columbus?
The big building. The one that's like everything's connected. You go in, they walk you through like a bunch of chickens.
You used with Franklin County.
Oh yeah, it was Franklin County. Yeah, Pickerington, no, because it happened in Whitehall, which was Franklin County. Whitehall called Pickerington to pick me up. They held me in my own cul-de-sac to ask all these questions. You did it, didn't you? You did it. The guy looked just like you. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I said, I tell you what, and 9 times out of 10, if you just say lawyer, they leave you alone. They can't prove it. That's it. But me just being who I am, it's like, I'm trying to give you the information. I didn't do it. I'm not the guy. I know enough about, networks that if you want to search the network, see where I'm located. And then he said, yeah, if we find something, it's going to be, it's going to be you. I'm like, okay. And that was where the lawyer said
They're
that.
bullying you.
Yeah, they were bullying me. They trying to cohort a confession. And there was no confession to get out of me because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
And this went on for over a year, and it was
over a year,
and it was like the
and
same
it was expensive.
thing. It was the same
thing.
They just wanted you to confess to something that you'll take a plea. Tell us you fucking took a candy bar from the gas station.
Well,
they tried
to lower it because the thing is that wasn't even a felony, but they put it at a felony. That was the thing about it, is that they tried to put that offense at a felony. They did it. They put it as a felony. They wanted to, it wasn't a, I couldn't go to jail for it, but they wanted to give me a felony on that offense. So
I wonder if that's because maybe a multiple charge. Like if you were caught guilty for both, that would be a felony. Like a multiple charge would be a felony, as opposed to just the one that they were. I don't know.
Yeah.
What I mean by multiple is like they're trying to prove that you're breaking into your building as well.
Right.
I
don't know. It just was. It was.
Sketchy.
But to narrow everything down, this is how everything shut down. This is I can get to the shutdown part. The shutdown part was the judge told the prosecutor, he passed a polygraph. You need to drop the case. My lawyer had said that he's constantly going in there to extensions and all this stuff. So we got down to the part where the judge actually wrote a letter to what's his name, the sleepy eye dude, Ron O'Brien. The prosecutor over everything in Franklin County wrote a letter to Ron O'Brien saying that you need to look at this situation, and then from there. I didn't hear anything back. They dropped the case. That's just unfortunate that I had to have put out almost $30,000 over, because I went 20 on the first lawyer that was going to go with the plea, and then the lawyer that Clarence, Bill Cosby.
Just to clarify, when I met his lawyer, because I had to go in and sign papers and do all this stuff because of this little window that I was involved in.
Little window you were involved in.
The guy reminded me of Bill Cosby, and not in the way his mannerisms or anything like that, but just his whole character.
Yeah.
Just had a very wholesome vibe to it.
Right.
And he was older and kind of a little aloof at certain points.
Right. And what I learned from that point on is, and nothing against certain lawyers. There's great lawyers. I guess Shemansky. I don't know his name. I'm not trying to promote anybody as a lawyer or anything like that, but there's great white lawyers, there's great black lawyers, there's trial lawyers, and then there's what do you call it? They negotiate or whatever.
Right.
But I started out with this white lawyer, and he was supposed to have been some great OSU professor. He was great at what he did, been there for years, and cost me a lump of money that I took out of my retirement to support this. Then I get a Clarence, which was my second lawyer. Basically, he went in, took pictures, said that this guy ain't even the same height. So we up there taking pictures of the doors, my height versus the other guy's height, my complexion versus the other, and
he
that's
went Matlock on this.
Yeah, he went Matlock. He went above and beyond for $5,000.
Right.
I spent the $5,000 just to cover it, but I opened up with him with $10,000 and ran that thing all the way up till I had to pay more. And I'm like, we can't be doing this. And my wife said, we just need to get another lawyer. Then when Clarence said there's a difference between a trial lawyer and a I guess a negotiator. I forgot the word for it. But yeah, he said, well, let's take it to trial. It wasn't no negotiation. Is this
he wanted to challenge.
He wanted to challenge.
It
was
lawyer.
a lot.
A
plea lawyer. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The other guy was a plea lawyer, and
he just wanted to get you off on the lowest charge possible.
right. It would have turned a felony into a misdemeanor.
Right.
They say it's like you walked across the street jaywalk. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So why would I accept it?
Clarence was a character in himself, but he had your best intentions.
Yeah.
In the forefront.
And we went in there with both. Was your leg broke at the time, or was my leg broke? Because you had to drive, and I was on crutches.
It was...
Because that was after...
yeah, no, your leg was broke.
My leg was broke.
Your leg was broke for a different story.
A different story, yeah. That's a different story.
We had a lot of Stevie and Ronjae growing
at
that point in time.
We did, because I was like, after I got a hold of you, he was like, hey, did you want to do the... open mic, and that's how we really started getting to know each other.
Yeah, and then you came out and did a show with David Bruner and I.
Right. That was that
your
night.
Saxophone got knocked over.
The
Your saxophone
got
was broke.
My knee got broke.
You were supposed to play Winterfest at Lucky's with me the next day.
Right.
So your saxophone broke. You was kind of bummed. So we went out to Lucky's. I was like, well, in case you can get it fixed, come check out Lucky's. And you fucking
took the
fell
wrong
down the stairs.
fell down the stairs.
And you broke your
my
knee.
leg. Yeah.
You broke your knee or leg or whatever. Yeah. And that was it. You were tapped out.
I was tapped out.
And then...
And had to stay at your house.
Oh, shit.
I ain't going in that. Forget it.
Yeah, he had to stay at my house, and I kind of held him hostage, and I made him watch a movie that I now regret. Because my white guilt...
I wasn't going to go into the movie. I was going to go into... Yeah,
my white guilt wanted to make sure Ronjae knew that I was cool, and apparently it went the other route because I showed him American History X.
American History X. The first beginning of that movie was like, what the? Is this cat crazy? And I didn't know you like that. I was trying to be, because I'm working in a field where
You meet different characters.
Yeah, I had to be able to manage my emotions around people because I want to keep my job, right? So I'm good at that. When you put that movie on, I'm like, oh, wow, Ed Norton, I like him. And then soon he said, put your mouth on the curb. I'm like, oh, we got some issues right here. And then them N words start flowing like normal. I'm like, is this what happened in your house all the time, Mr. Cade?
Oh, man.
Is this what happened? Is this what American history you got? That's why they put an X on it. Because
and the whole time I'm over here like, Ronjae knows I'm a good man.
You just put yourself in the category of saying that, well, let's see how good you are when I bring my brothers over here and we gonna watch some Public Enema.
Oh, Public Enema.
Public Enemy. And so let's see how you choose not to squirm in an atmosphere.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've protested.
I know you always apologize to me every time that subject comes up.
That was a lesson learned on my
end. Don't try to be too cool. Just be you.
Just be you.
Yeah, just be you.
I was trying to be too cool.
And then right after that, what did we watch? Evil. What's that?
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Yeah. Swallow your soul. I swallow your soul. Whatever it is.
Jesus. I can only imagine what your night was.
I mean, I seen it, but that's the whole thing is that, I'm like, wow, I'm watching American History X, and then he gonna go ahead and easily grab me and say, I'm sorry, let's watch some Evil Dead. White dude with a shotgun.
Let me make you some ramen noodles at my
Let me make some ramen noodles and tell you, oh, it's on the table. Then I go look for it again. The ramen noodles ain't there. Like, who ate the ramen noodles? I know I didn't eat the ramen noodles. Or that was the second time.
I don't remember.
All I know, we've had some great experiences where you said that you said I was on the floor. Right. It was one time I was like, I think I was a little bit toasted, and I laid on the floor like, oh, I gotta lay on the floor. And then you said that next morning there was toilet paper rolls
you got
all
sick
over the place.
in my bathroom.
Yeah, I got sick on your bathroom.
And you laid there, but like I went in the next morning.
Said I was like,
there was
pieces of toilet paper like I'm a hamster, just rolling them up and throwing them all over the place.
That's what it looked like.
Wait a minute, I don't have hamsters. And I'm no hamster, and
So-
I don't chew them up and spit them out.
I guess what people can take away from this entire
They probably
thing
gonna
is-
say, "What in the world is he talking about?"
No, because everybody has a friend. Everybody has those people in their lives where, like, even though you and I come from two walks of life, we've went through some extremes in our friendship that has helped build.
I mean,
our
it helped
friendship.
build it out because a lot of people don't know about the whole how did we really start talking.
Right.
Because I think I asked you to, be my
Witness.
defense and
Yeah,
witness.
defense.
And then later on, you asked me, hey, you want to help me out? You want to run this open mic with me?
Yeah.
And that was during a period of time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's how we built our set.
That's how we build a set,
We've never once sat down and practiced shit.
Yeah, we never did. We just went, and then I say, hey, Stevie, Clarence trying to get a hold of you. What's your address?
For the fifth fucking time. This motherfucker. I don't mean that. That's rude.
Go ahead.
This dude. Every message he sent me was, "What's your address?" I'm like, man, I sent you my address. It's like 3 texts above or 3 emails above.
It's an email.
just look at the previous email.
Just search for Cade.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
We've been through some fun stuff.
Yeah.
We've been through lows and highs, much like a lot of my good friends and I have. It's really built our character as a duo.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm new at this phase of music and stuff like that, but it seemed like we went through
A crash course.
a crash course on how to deal with different stuff. I mean,
We went through a 10-year relationship in a year and a half.
yeah, I can say that. Yeah, that is true. It's the trust issue. It's the I'll see you on Wednesday, Stevie. Every Wednesday.
Yeah. All I know is after everything was said and done, and your charges were acquitted.
They were
and,
dropped. Yeah, and actually, I got them completely expunged because I went back in.
Obviously, hopefully.
Well, that was the whole thing. I didn't know that you actually do have to go back in. You can have them dropped, but within a certain period of time, it's not saying it's late or anything like that. You can put in to have them completely expunged because even if you get pulled over or whatever, they can see that you had a case that was dropped, but you have to have them completely expunged. So I got that done. I went back to the judge. I said, I went back. And I went in myself. I didn't have to have clearance. I did the paperwork myself, along with my wife helped me out. And then went back in. They completely expunged it. So there's no information on that one. It's just a sad situation. Am I mad about it? Could I had gone back in to get my money that I actually spent out to do it? Yeah, but with the day and age,
you don't.
it just took too much out of me.
Yeah.
I was spent with it, so that's why I'm like sitting here, even though that this time of day,
But it speaks to the big problem of, like you just look like the person.
Yeah,
and this was a
I
whole
look
process.
like a lot of
They
people.
followed you from Whitehall
They
to
followed me.
Pickerington,
Well-
Pickerington to your house. They called the Pickerington.
He lost me, if you want to say that. That's why he said that I evaded him. Because he probably was looking down doing research, and at the time I said I ain't gonna be bothered with this, so I
So
left.
he thought you
Oh
evaded him.
yeah, he.
Oh,
So
you
basically,
out here- you
so
out here
now I got an
running
APB
Grand
out
Theft
on me.
Auto on his ass.
Yeah, well, that's basically what it was. He's saying that I took off running, and he said that he tried to outrun me.
Oh my God.
It was a lot of
This
stuff
is
that
ridiculous.
it was a lot of stuff that was in, and this is the crazy part. This is the crazy. I hate to go back on this, but guess what they said? I stole this laptop with. They had the picture of the guy pulling up in the black vehicle. First, he said that I used my Tahoe. Then the defense or the person said that I used a black vehicle. They couldn't tell what it was, and the only black vehicle we have is a BMW. So I went to a place with a BMW,
All
a
black
7
vehicles look
Series.
the same,
It's not the smaller one. It's not a 3. It's not a 5. Well, I think it was a 5 at the time. But yeah, so I got the BMW, went somewhere, broke and kicked the door down, and stole a $600 laptop. But it was $600.
You got to pay that.
Yeah, I got to
that
pay
car
I
payment.
got to pay that car payment. So and it wasn't $600. That's what it was before. but as in depreciation,
Like 400, 300.
Yeah,
so
300 because it was an old computer.
So this whole thing is a sad testament to, well, pretty much the Whitehall Police Department.
We did some research on them, and they've been sued for a lot of different stuff similar to that one. I know Reynoldsburg, when I was in college, I wrote a paper on. I happened to be here when I wrote. I think I was at DeVry at the time, DeVry, and then I wrote one of my papers that Reynoldsburg, they did a lot of stopping of people that had different license plates. And when they didn't know whatever, so their license plate was from another state, so some of them were getting stopped and actually was getting marijuana or drugs planted on them during that time. And this was actually a book that was actually put out about Reynoldsburg, and they were unlawfully doing that
just
stuff.
Planting evidence.
Just planting evidence, yeah, because that was part of my research. It was just saying that, what happens in America.
Right, and this ties into, and you said it was going to go this route.
Oh yeah.
but how could it not? I mean, especially when we talked about what you went through.
Right.
And I'll just kind of gloss over it a little bit. We got this whole Black Lives movement going on, but out of the ashes of that is people wanting to defund the police. What do you feel about defunding the police? Exactly. I mean, like, I can see. To me, that doesn't quite make sense. I feel like that's a sudden solution that will create another problem.
Right.
Obviously, police.
Right, I
need
can be
to be conditioned. They need to be better trained. There needs to be more checks and balances. But what's your take on this?
My take on it is that every department has its, I guess you could say, has its group of people that they monitor or watch or oversee. Defunding a police force, I don't agree with it. I believe in reallocating funds to different areas because, let's say, for instance, you have a police force that's trying to get tanks or helicopters and things like that because they might have an area where they need those. But in the school, even though we're not going through school, COVID kind of changed a lot of that stuff, like resource officers that are there at a high school, that we know that high schoolers always have a different mindset, but the only reason why I would say let's not fund them in those areas because we're supposed to have counselors supposed to help that. And before, when I came up, you can actually go to your principal and get a paddle. It was called what was it called? It was called what was it called? It was called
I know what paddle you're talking about.
Corporal punishment. Corporal punishment was allowed, so that means the teacher can get on you, the principal can get on you, so by the time everybody get on you, you ain't got no juice left to act a fool. And
I used to have my parents sign the waiver that my school could use the paddle.
Yeah. So with all that taken out because they feel like, and I understand, because I'm in that field working with special needs, there's so many different, students that might need that care or that support. But the only thing about it is that when you have an officer that's probably working at the, working in the streets, working with, trying to make sure everything is safe. And then their day job or so might be working in a high school with students. And then at my school in high school, when everybody knuckled up and started fighting, teachers knew not to get involved, but it wasn't a resource officer. We had hall monitors. These were guys that probably went to the school 10 years ago, and they were the ones that get us in line. So they knew what the school was about. They knew if you was in the corner and it started smelling like weed, just go ahead and throw the weed out and go to class. They ain't gonna try to lock you up. They ain't gonna try to put nothing on you, whatever. because most likely they knew your sister, they knew your mom, they knew everybody anyway, and you didn't want that to get home. Nowadays, they gonna go, I mean, I've seen little kids 9 years old getting cuffs on their, elbows just to prove a point, saying that you don't want to go down this line.
Right.
It's like, but now you've already messed them up. I wouldn't defund them. I just reallocate the money. Because the thing about it is that, let's say, I just don't want to say I'm against authority and police and stuff like that. I think that we can go with, I think even when they say, yeah, give them sensitivity training, not all of them are getting sensitivity training. And sensitivity training only goes so far until you get an officer. You got good officers, you got bad officers. You got the ones that, feel like, you better respect this badge. Well, if I said, give me your badge number, are you going to give it to me? Because by law, if I ask you, because you are, if I say, what's your badge number? You have to answer the question. That's what it is. But if you start saying that my badge number's right here, see, that's when you start, who's the one that's out of line? Because the thing is that you're supposed to protect and serve. If you start actually getting out of that area of protecting and serving, and then you want to start acting the butthole in this thing to heighten an area and saying that, well, I'm the one that's out of line. Well, you created an atmosphere which had me to say that, well, I pay taxes, you pay taxes. You work on this side of the town, and you're in my town protecting this area. So now I'm the taxpayer. And what do I get for being a taxpayer? I get another officer from another area that don't know this area, right, and want to tell me how this area actually works. You're patrolling this area, but don't know the people in it. I think you shouldn't put so much into the point of saying that you need resource officers in a place where kids are going to be kids. You shouldn't put a officer that, and that's another thing. Like my nephew, he has a degree in criminal justice. He went out to be a CPD. Now, I'm just going to put 2 and 2 together. He passed the test. They said, well, because of your Facebook page, the person that you knew that was on your Facebook page, they're a known felon, they have drugs. So that's what wouldn't allow him to get in. Now, that's a true fact. That's a true fact. My nephew, he criminal justice, he has a Facebook page, but no friends that aren't as savory. So they figure that since you know people that, and he's black, of course, I'm black, he's black, that's my nephew. Not saying that I gotta have a white nephew. I don't have a. You know where I'm going with this,
right?
But the thing is that the percentage of black or African American officers are low, very low. So if you do have that conversation with, it's good for a black male that might not have the support that's at home to see other black males, not to buck up against somebody, but they can calm them down. That's just like, as soon as you see your mom, you're like, oh, I better calm down. And that's the same thing as seeing another black person or somebody just like you saying that, well, he's wearing that badge. It's not saying I'm going to disrespect the person that's wearing the badge, but he's not coming over there saying that you better respect this badge because you already have a ideal of how you handle other black males, so I'm just like them. So other than that, I can have a black male saying that, all right, brother, what's going on? That can talk the lingo and calm you down. That's just like if I went into the country, I could talk to another country dude and we all good. Give me some gumbo, we good. You know what I'm saying? But when you have an officer coming up to you, now I have to change the way I normally would talk, because now, like I told you, it's reverse racism. I gotta act a certain part to make sure I get through this situation well. Other people, they can, I've seen videos of people, white folks, they get out of the car. Well, what's wrong with officer? What did I do wrong?
Right.
And they get out of the car.
Acting the fool.
They get out of the car acting the fool, where black people to this day, 10 and 2. Put your wallet on the glove and tell them exactly everything. Why do we have to, and I can have, it's not, it don't happen all the time, but because of the activity that's happening in so many different cities, and I don't even really want to get on the whole ideal of Black Lives Matter, because my opinion about Black Lives Matter is that I know Black Lives Matter, but I don't attach myself to the movement, because the movement is a totally different atmosphere that I'm not completely on the same page. Because you asking another person, you asking me about it, because from the statutes and the rules or the laws or whatever this Black Lives Matter have, they're not for the black male, because they're looking at a different aspect of how black men should be, and I don't believe that they're for what we're for. Black Lives Matter, period. On my end, because I'm Black Lives Matter. But how the movement is placing it, I'm not going to say stop it, because if they're moving forward with a lot of the activities that will help out, it don't even have to be a black or African American male. It can be somebody Spanish. It can be people that, it could be lower income white males or females or whatever. As in saying that you get clumped into an area, if you ain't got the cash, I take that back. Sometimes you got to have the cash because you look like them. You might be it. Some people can, have a normal day and just be a down day, and then things happen and you're mixed in with the wrong crowd.
So when it comes to like the responsibility of the police and what we can do, because obviously, no matter whose opinion or whatever, about Black Lives Matter, there seems to be a direct problem from the police, overusing their power, as you said, let me see your badge. Oh, no, I'm not going to show you my badge.
Right. It's just
now we get back to this problem of what to do with the police department in a world that is realizing that we can't live like this anymore. And Black Lives Matter, everyone,
mantra or whatever. Yeah, what everybody
all
uses,
opinions aside with all that.
That's just me in my opinion, because everybody have a different side of it.
It's brought more to light of
it brought a lot to life.
Of the issues with authority,
right?
And what powers they have and what powers they don't have, and who's abusing or not abusing, these powers. And everyone's knee-jerk reaction is, well, defund the police, get rid of them.
Right.
Which to me seems like it would bring up a whole set of new problems in which we're going to be wishing we can call 911
that's probably
for.
why they said, because of all this shooting that happened in Columbus, they didn't defund the police, but you still have more shootings. Because now they saying that was COVID the reason why people getting in the house too long enough and blah blah blah. Now they got different thoughts. I think we have different things happening at the same time.
Yeah, I think we did have.
You got angry people at the house.
Yeah, we did.
Can I go out and party? No, you can't. You got to be home by 10.
I think we definitely had a unique cocktail of a situation that infused this whole thing going on. You shut the city down, everyone's staying at home, people are losing money, having trouble paying their rent.
Trouble paying the rent, got a lot of
nobody's allowed to work, but renters are still allowed to ask for their money.
Right.
And it creates this stress.
Right.
And then you have the George Floyd thing that happens, and that just created an explosion. People took to the streets, a lot for Black Lives Matter movement, and I think even more jumped on board because hey, Black Lives Matter. I see you, but I got something to say too.
Right.
Then they jump on
and you
board.
got different groups coming into this thing too,
right? So. And so it all boils back down to what are we going to do with our police department in this situation, and just to share my opinion real quick on this.
Sure.
When it comes to defunding the police, that sounds scarier to me than anything else. And at first, I was kind of excited about it. I'm like, ooh, defund the police? Yeah, fuck those guys. But
what they do for me?
Right, but at the
What
same
have you done
but at
for
the same
me
time,
lately?
when you say that,
That's Janet Jackson. Sorry.
that's hey, thanks for
Had to plug
her.
her.
So at the same time, defunding the police also ensues anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And anarchy is not the way to go. I know a lot of people think it's so cool. Oh, anarchy's awesome until actual anarchy happens, and then first thing they want to do is call the police when somebody's robbing their house.
Right.
And our police need to be monitored, but there needs to be a level of conditioning and observation with our police department that is military grade sort of shit, like Navy SEALs, the emotional evaluations they go through, the checks and balances they go through, when they're doing their whole process.
Right.
Why I have a buddy at work. He was a police officer for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And now he works construction with me. And I'm trying to get him onto this podcast. But he's so private. He doesn't even have a Facebook. He just doesn't. But he opens up to me. And he talks about, he's like, I went through training for 6 months as a police officer. And I wasn't ready. But they told me I was ready. Mm-hmm. They're being put out like crops, herds of people, let's get the next crop out there, nervously, holding their guns.
You mean the officers?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I say that, nothing against officers and anybody listening. If you're an officer and you're doing your job, kudos. Just do it to the best of your ability and do it well. Don't become the problem, become the solution. Because there's a lot of people that want to be an officer that will go to other states and cities and try to work on being in those positions and stuff like that. But, like I said, my nephew, why didn't he get into the position? Because of those reasons. That's almost like saying that you can't get into it because your family's crazy. Well, so be it. But that's where it's like, if I look at it, and I'm not trying to stop the flow of things.
No, you're fine.
And I'm not going into the political side of it, but, Mr. Trump has unsavory group of people that was surrounded around him. He is the, executive branch, and he actually is the top. I consider him the top cop. He has the executive, you have the legislative, judicial, and you have the executive, which he's over all authority, executive branch, but the people that's around him have been going to jail. Some people, have had issues, but like I said, when you have black guys, and I know more than not just my nephew, I know 4 or 5 college students that were going to go and they applied for the position for CPD. All of them failed. All of them black. Why is that? They even had an investigation in Columbus about why aren't there any black. There's a lot of stuff that happens.
All right, so you're.
It's not the defunding. It's the spreading of fairness of areas. So if you had more black,
you're tapping on like affirmative action. And,
it's
this sort of thing.
I wouldn't want affirmative action. I'm just saying the fairness of it is just saying that there was a lot of stuff that's happening in Congress. I mean, you have this guy that is some top level guy, and now he's been sifting money off of the groups and stuff like that. Now he's under an investigation. I don't know if you know about that, but that's another thing. But there's corruption. There's corruption in so many different high levels. But then when you say you want to have an officer that's perfect, but when it comes down to a black person, you got to throw him into an area that I guess you would say affirmative action, area of perfection. And then you go 1 level up, or 3 levels up, or 5 levels up, and you got the president. From,
it becomes
you got
a broader spectrum of perfection.
Of perfection, means. And of course, you can have a felony and still be in a a federal position, but you can't have it at a city or municipality or whatever. You can't have it at city or state. You can't have it. I think it's something like that. You can't do anything in the city with a felony, but you can go to federal courts. You can go with a I looked that up.
You're bringing up is a very valid point. You know the criteria of what it takes to become a police officer. And our minorities being overlooked because they're minorities.
Right.
This person on Facebook is questionable. We're not going to hire you.
Right.
Like that's very odd when you have very known racist.
They've never had exposure to minorities as much, or they have, but they just have a certain way they think of them or deal with them. So now they just responding of how they had exposure to them. Black, Mexican, Asian, whatever, minorities in general, and some lower class, and that's lower class whites as well.
The police as a whole, as I said before, I feel there needs to be a checks and balances with this whole thing. You said you have a police officer, going out there, they're trying to, they want to be a police officer, they want to do the best they can,
right? I have my friend that's a highway patrolman.
Right. No matter their background or whatever.
Yeah.
But at what point in time does it become not the officer's responsibility, to be aware of his own mental health and be aware of, the things he's being involved in or what have you? At what point in time does it become the city's responsibility to make sure that the people that they're putting out there have a mental health check? Okay. They're not only that, but they are trained properly to handle situations. Going back to George, Floyd, obviously, the guy putting his knee on his neck. I mean, there's a whole slew of reasons why he could have done that, but you have somebody who, if
the wrong reasons,
right, right,
yeah,
exactly,
right.
Ego. Racism.
Well, the whole concept
is thing.
The whole thing that happens in that whole process of saying that if you can talk, you can breathe. It's just saying that, well, you got them cuffed.
But if these officers are consistently being trained in jiu-jitsu, like martial arts, let's say instead of defunding the police, we fund them a little bit more to advocate better training of how the body works. Let's say you spend you work, I don't know how many hours a police officer works. Let's just say an average work week, 40 to 50 hours a week. Let's say 20 to 30% of that is training.
Okay.
That you have to go through a mental health class. You have to go through some sort of like a martial arts, that helps you deflect situations or decline or de-escalate situations that, like George Floyd, that whole situation could have been handled a lot. He would have known, in training of some sort of martial arts that was obviously going to.
I think that was more of a personal thing, because even if that they worked together, they were both bouncers in one place. So they knew each other. It wasn't a point that he didn't know him. He can say that he didn't know him, but I've bounced at a couple of places. They have the bouncing meeting. You look at everybody saying, you taking the front door, you taking the back door, you walk around, you make sure nobody ain't doing anything wrong. I'm not a big dude, but they would actually give me a shirt, security. But everybody, and they knew each other. I'm not getting into the whole thing, but the thing is saying that sometimes black males seem threatening to other people, regardless of how they know him, how they see him, or whatever. Right. If he felt like he was a threat to him, you got 3 other officers around you, and the first thing you thinking is, well, how come you didn't cuff the dude that was on the passenger side? There was a lot that was going on. Not to drag this big thing back in, but the thing is saying that it was unfortunate that this situation happened. So everybody went to defunding him because that cop was stupid. Defund everybody else because until they get it right, I ain't giving you no more money.
So are you saying that you are in support of defunding, or maybe are you open to the idea of funding them more under the idea that these funds will be allocated to better training, like a better source of training of how to de-escalate a situation, mental health evaluations. Things that...
Well, I mean, that ain't the only shooting that they had. I mean, they had multiple shootings, multiple years, 3 years down the line that actually happened. And to get this thing right is not the point of saying you want to defund or allocate. I say reallocate, but the ideal is saying that you got to listen to the facts. Either why would an officer say, "Don't touch your gun"? Is he afraid? Like you said, there might be a point where you got to look at this psychological part. Because if they're looking at my nephew saying that he knows somebody with drugs, you might need to look at that officer saying that do he have ties with some kind of anti race or racist groups.
I think looking into the mental health of the officers is a huge part of this.
It's a big part. Because some people, it's not saying that all white officers don't have a sensitivity to black or Mexican or anything. Because you can have a white officer that might have a black son, or biracial son. Or adopted, could be black, could be Asian, could be anything. Anybody can have, you don't know who you up against when you're in a moment. But the thing is that what we saw at that period of time was a moment that somebody made a decision to take charge. His decision was that I didn't care about this officer that had so many years. He just got on the force. He didn't care about the other officer, and knowing that everybody's recording. Somebody's going to see it.
There was a sense of pride that he had. Like, I'm an officer. You're not going to tell me what to do.
Right.
I can... When I watched the video, like, empathic. I was sitting there like trying to absorb all the emotions. Right. And I'm looking into this officer's eyes, as he's looking at the cameras and stuff. And I see somebody who's like confused and like, but I'm not going to change my mind because I'm an authority here.
Well, he just basically, it's almost like, trying to choke out a fish until they stop breathing.
Yeah. I mean, the guy he murdered the man.
Right. And everybody's seen it. And that was it. And like I said, there's no...
But do you think mental health conditioning, like a process, a weekly process to evaluate his mental health, and also on top of that, to train him how to handle that situation physically differently, do you think that could have helped that situation? Or do you think that guy was going to do that no matter what, red flags he threw up in mental health, evaluations, or no matter what he was trained as? Do you think that would have helped that situation at all?
I think it would help. I don't think it would solve everything, but I think it would help. Of course not.
I mean, you have humans. We're humans.
Right,
we always fuck things up.
Yeah, I mean, you got through a process. I think everybody have their own process of trying to deal. Who knows what happened that morning? Maybe he got into an argument with his wife, or I don't know if he's married or not.
Right. I get what you're saying. There could be
it could be a lot of different things that could have went through.
He was going through, and that's not his day.
And it's not saying that just because he did what he did that I don't care. But the thing is saying that to back things up, and just me being an engineer, our process was to saying that we finished the situation, we finished it. Now let's go ahead, and that was considered to be the way we break things back down to figure out how can we make it better.
Yeah.
So there's different processes that we went through. What was it? I think it was Lean Six Sigma or something like that. It was some type of process that we learned. One was waterfall, one was agility, one is they taught us a lot of stuff to try to figure out where do we cut the fat. Lean Six Sigma was supposed to be saying that, how long did you take your break? Well, maybe you need to have shorter breaks, because we could have been done if you wouldn't have had a longer break. And you wonder why I'm late.
You really have this uncanny ability to really, bring in this undercut.
I'm like, I mean, that's the whole thing about it, is that I know processes. I know a lot of different things. My brain click on a lot of different levels outside of music.
Yeah.
But the thing is saying that, we were talking about empathic. That might go that's another thing. But in general, I had a long conversation with my sister about, spirits and stuff like that, that's another thing. But go ahead and keep going.
Hey, whatever, man. If you want to dive into that, let's dive into that.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to cut off everybody saying that. Well, what is your thought about?
Okay, well, you know what? Maybe
I don't think
it is time to.
I don't think you should
change
defund it. I don't think you should defund it. I think that when it comes down to it, I think it should be fair across the board. I think that if you have, an area that might have a certain, that's almost like saying, a woman can't be searched unless there's another woman to search them. Well, why did they create that one? So you can be. I mean, and I'm not saying that it always happen, because there's women that get searched by men too. Yeah. But they are conscious of that one, so they know that there's a protocol in place for it. So I believe that when you go into certain areas, saying that, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be, driving the Linden area. Well, how many black cops are in the Linden area? That's a good question. How many black cops in the Linden area? I don't know. But it seemed like every time I watch TV, I don't see any.
Yeah.
I see a lot of white officers. Well, if you got a Hispanic area, it should be, that's just like the...
So you're talking about allocating, that's
right.
a slippery slope.
Well, it's not a slippery slope. It's just saying that when you have so many people at a certain level, it's confusing, because I'm just looking at it from a Columbus region. So let's say that you have Buckeye Lake. I don't know how many black residents you have on the lake, which is probably rare or none or not as many. So
I think I have one in this neighborhood.
Right. So I mean, that's just like, I'll use Pickerington for example. We have, I don't know how many officers that we have that's black officers, but it's as a black male, knowing that I have a black son that comes back and forth and he's there, it's like, it's not saying that every time that he get looked at is going to be the black officer making sure he run through Pickerington just well, but we've had issues in Pickerington too. With my son, he's 29 now. When they decided to say, we need to bring the black parents together and talk about how do we best, communicate with your students, because there was no black teachers. They had to hire a black, teacher, vice principal, and all this stuff. It's not saying that they did it because of what we were talking about earlier, as in saying that fairness or whatever. It's just saying that sometimes affirmative action. Yeah, I use that, affirmative action. But some areas just saying, I mean, any job that you go to, they say, well, how well are they going to play well with the rest of the group? Well, the rest of the group was already used to talking, because that's just like when I was in IT or tech as field ops, we didn't have any women that was in our group. And then once we start getting women in there, it was one lady that was she was a field operations, and then everybody stopped. You can't bring your little Playboy, and you can't put it on the bathroom. You can't have your little gun magazine. That was what we were used to. Most of the guys that was in the field either went to school for it or they came out of the military. And everybody was saying filth, foul, foul, filth, foul, foul, using the P word like it was just whip it out. But as you have more people in there, you have to, there was a diversity. Diversity creates a lot of the stuff that you might be talking at home just out of the whim. And this is just me saying, sometimes, it's like in conversation, sometimes things fly and like, okay, well, yeah, you ain't going to try to explain it, but it happens. If I'm saying, if I'm down in Louisiana with my Cajun family, we might say something crazy. If you heard it, you're like, what is that? Well, if I explained it to you, you wouldn't know. But you ain't going to be around long enough, so you don't have to worry about it. But that don't transfer me over after I leave my family in Louisiana that I'm speaking Cajun. I have to, respond and act in a way that's for the masses. And that's the idea.
So we took a little break here.
Short break. And it is Halloween.
Yes. Tis October. The season of ghouls and goblins.
Ghouls and goblins.
I guess we'll switch gears here. We talked about your technical aspects.
Didn't even get into my faith and beliefs.
the well-educated man that you are.
Yeah. And I was a deacon too for a church.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Tongue talking, laying on of hands. We
All
can
right.
get past that. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, we ain't getting past
We can get past that. Don't worry about it. I spent my years as a deacon for World Harvest Church, which one of the bigger churches with Pastor Rod Parsley. But now we're not there anymore. But yeah.
So what? You a believer? You
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Faith. Well, I was raised in so many different aspects of faith in general. My family, and we were originally out of Louisiana, so you can just place a lot of my mom was Creole and my dad's Cajun. On the Creole side, we have an aunt that's two-headed.
Two-headed. Now, you brought this term up with me the other day. Two-headed is you can still have faith in one. You can have faith in one religious aspect, but also follow the beliefs of another.
Right?
Is that what that two-headed means?
Yeah. Well, they intertwine because a lot of the biblical aspects of how nature. I mean, you can have Indians that believe in nature, but with us, as in, I'll use the term. I'll just bring it out. Voodoo. So just break the seal, and from an aspect of voodoo. It was a lot of the things that's considered in the Bible, and I know a lot of people might not believe it, but maybe you need to be raised up the way I was raised up. What we believed was two-headed was saying that if I wanted something to happen good for me, I would have to either repeat it multiple times till I believed it to happen, and it might have been something that was scriptural, because you can read a certain scriptures that might have been out of Psalms before the cock crows. You're like, before the cock crows? Well, in the Bible, cock crows mean that when the cock crows, it saw the sun. That means before the day ended, you have to repeat certain things till you actually believed it, and it actually manifests itself, or it creates a atmosphere of belief or faith that caused it to happen. Now, that's on the voodoo side that taught you that. But from an aspect,
you can take that and apply it.
You take that and apply it. Yeah, right. Yeah, as in saying, the spiritual realm. There was 3. This is different levels that I'm about to go into. You can should I go into the book that I used to read when I was younger?
Go into whatever.
Okay, now here we go. Right here,
the stage is open.
This is the stage right here. This was how I was raised.
We talked about the things that.
Yeah, I mean
everything we talked about is something that's
it's an aspect of me. Yeah, what makes up Ronjae? What makes me up?
Right. That's what we're listening for.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
My side of the family, we're very spiritual. Everybody say, "Oh, you're spiritual, so you believe in God, you believe in faith, and you have that." Yes, I do, because I had to grow into it. But the way I was raised was not always that way until from the age of I think I might have been 6 or 7 years old. I used to carry this little paper that my aunt, which is two-headed, she would actually talk to me. How you doing, baby? You good? How's school going? No, everything's all right. So she'll talk to us, and she'll be scribbling something that says Aman, 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 Aman. And it was all around this little circle, and then there was something in the middle of it with like an X or something like that. So basically, she was creating a protection for me, my brother, my sisters, that we would carry in our wallet or our purse until we have to come back there again to get another one. Happened every year until I was the age of 21. That happened every year till I have to repeat that again, till I was 21. And that's when I really I met my wife, Jewel, which was a tongue talking, laying on the hands, Pentecostal. Okay. And those two kind of were the same, but with voodoo, my mother would say, okay, this is a typical thing with me and my mother. If we're walking down the street, we're not allowed to split poles. Split poles. Split poles. That means that if there's a pole or a telephone pole that we have to walk on the same side, because that would.
Oh, so you weren't allowed to split each other to walk on either side of the pole.
Couldn't do it.
Gotcha.
Couldn't do it.
And why?
Well, if you split the pole, that means that you're actually causing enmity or splitting the luck that we already have. I guess she got up. Yeah.
Is there a cat in here?
No, she got up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's that song. She got up. Do, 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 do. That's a Baptist song or no Pentecostal song. Jesus got up. Yeah.
So splitting around the pole would be considered
a bad omen, if you want to put it, for the people that believe in omens or
and that's
bad juju.
That's a very voodoo way of looking at that.
Right. It was a lot of things that we couldn't do. It's like if we were sweeping in the house, we couldn't sweep anybody's feet. If you sweep somebody's feet, then you have to spit on the broom.
That sounds like some very superstitious
superstitious
mentality.
or there's a lot of stuff. If you wanted to get rid of a person, I might be telling somebody something. If you want to get rid of a person, when the person leave, you actually throw out a bucket of hot water in their tracks, and they were not supposed to return again. I tried it. It didn't work. And also, we weren't allowed to...
Stevie came back.
Yeah. We weren't allowed to go through... If we went out the front door, we couldn't come through the back door. You can't have two tracks. It's a lot of stuff that's related towards... Don't multiply yourself. Don't split yourself up. Because spiritually, it's different from physical. And there's another level. My mother would always say, the mind has a lot of power to it. And then there was a white book that I used to read when I was 13 years old. I can't tell you what was on it because there was no title on this white book. You open it, and the first thing that tells you is praying for you to not be in fear. So the book or something is keeping you from being in fear, so you can continue to read this book. And it tells you how to move objects, how to interpret dreams, how to astral project, as in saying that you can do 2, 3. I can move an object by astral projection, by touching it with my aura or spirit, or I can summon a spirit to move it for me.
And that's voodoo aspect.
That's voodoo aspect.
So how do you correlate that with a Christian mentality?
They don't match. They don't
match. So that's where two-headed comes from.
Well, that's where two-headed come from. But for me, when I actually got saved, it was a long story how I got saved. I can tell you the quick answer to being saved. And people, whether you believe in saved not, whatever, it happened. And I don't think that God, in a reference of Almighty, is a respecter of man. So if I would be thinking in an aspect of God, I was saying that I don't care who you are. I gave you that authority. You have the ability. Use it. Whoever you say that I am, I am. That's why I say I am that I am. If you say that I can do this, then you do it. If you say I can't, you won't have that authority. But that was the whole thing about voodoo, or that side of the house. And then all of a sudden I start getting into Pentecostal churches. They run almost the same, but they believe that it's a God thing, versus voodoo believe that we've been given that authority anyway. And Pentecostal says that we've been given that authority, but we give all praises to God, and that give him glory, give him praise for it. As for voodoo, it's saying that
it's on
you shouldn't have messed with me.
Yeah, it's on you.
It's on you. Yeah, it's just saying, and I kind of look at it from an aspect of, biblical aspects of saying that, God give authority to everybody. It's not saying that you don't have the authority. It's just saying that how do you work in it. And I'll give you a good example. Like my mother, when I don't know if I told you about the story about my mother, she got in a fight with this girl at school, and the girl bit her on her arm. Well, she went to my aunt. Well, actually, at the time, it was a different aunt. Everybody in that family knows something. And she said, well, go on outside and get that, she used the word SHIT. I'm rare at cursing. Sometimes you rarely hear me cursing, but when I say it, I might be at level 3. But
Oh, level 3.
level 3.
We'll keep our levels.
Yeah,
to
we'll keep the
ourselves.
levels. Yeah,
But,
that's another story. Yeah.
Yeah. to quickly break down for anybody listening, Ronjae and I measure each other in different levels of our emotional state at the time.
Yeah.
There's 1, 2, 3, and the very rarely seen 4.
Yeah, rarely 4.
But that's level 3.
But that's level, yeah. So what happened was that my mother came home. She had this girl. She fought her, and then she bit her on her arm. And my aunt said, "Go outside and get that pregnant hen." It was a pregnant hen that whatever they pooped or released their feces, get that and bring it into her. Well, when she brought it into her, she put it on that bite mark where she had the girl that bit her arm. And then she said, that girl ain't gonna mess with you no more. I said just like that. The girl ain't gonna mess with you no more. So what happened the next week is that the girl that she fought and bit her, all her teeth fell out. Because there was some activity that transpired between the rubbing of the poop on my mother's arm and the faith that says this girl won't mess with your daughter no more.
So when you say her teeth fell out,
within a week, plop. I said, "Well, Mom,
now is this a story that you've heard, or is this
no? This is my mother. This is what happened to my mother
I
when
get
she
it,
fought.
but like,
did my mother had told me a story of what happened when she was younger? That was the story.
That was a story.
That was a story, and there's plenty more of that. That ain't the only one. And then I can go to my mother. I can have one myself. I don't have stories. I have encounters.
So
you want the encounters?
Well, I mean, like, okay. So when you say that this all of her teeth fell out, due to this,
was she like what 7 years old, and then she was due for her teeth to fall out? No,
or I mean, but who's
they
this?
rotten out.
They
Her
rotten
teeth
out.
became rotten and they fell out. Now I believe my mom.
See, I hear this. Listen, I
my mom tell me the story. I just basically say, "Oh man!" So it's almost like saying
you're repeating the story.
I'm repeating what happened to my mother when she was I think she was 13 or 14. I want to no. I think she was 13 or 14. That's all I know. She was around that age, 13 or 14.
Okay.
And she got in a fight with this girl at school.
Right, and she bit her on the arm. She rubbed the fucking
Right.
chicken poop on her.
After that, my mother started carrying the blade. She was carrying knives, blades, everything. My mother is not the person to play with.
It sounds like a lot like
no,
my mom.
she
actually
is not the person to play with.
Well, where my mind starts to question things is, you tell me this story,
right?
And you propose it as a situation that I should just wow.
No.
That sounds incredible. What a interesting turn of events.
yeah.
But what I'm trying to be respectful here.
What was the whole purpose for her doing that?
No. I understand the purpose.
They just
my idea
get back at you.
What my mind is wondering is how much of this is a telephone game in a sense. Right. She was younger.
You mean a shell game? Like somebody told her a story. The story told her. No.
Right. And her teeth fall out.
Oh no, she went to school with the girl.
Right, I get that, but it just seems very remarkable. A very. That's quite the claim. So like you got somebody like me, I kind of question everything, and
Right. Well,
you
that's
know-
just like voodoo or making zombies and stuff like. I can tell you how that happens, but I ain't gonna go into that. I can tell you. You want me to tell you how that happens?
Well, no. First, I want you to tell me how this girl's teeth fell out.
I can't tell you how her teeth
only
fell
that,
out.
but like,
No,
my mind.
I read
what
a-
evidence
I'll put it
is
this
there
way.
that these girls' teeth fell out,
What
fell
evidence
out,
of it? Is it saying
or
that-
fell out like because of that? I'm very curious to see.
No,
Or
okay.
to dive into like
Here-
what made
here's-
this girl's teeth
Here's the
fall
thing
out.
about voodoo.
Or
Here's the thing about
how it fell out.
here's the thing about voodoo, and if you want to call it witchcraft or whatever, the dark arts. There's a pattern that happens that's also in the Bible, but nobody want to place it there. And all you Christianity is gonna say, "Oh, the Bible is not the same thing as the voodoo." It's like, okay, whatever.
Some people might. I won't.
No,
I won't say that.
I mean, being on both sides, as in saying being saved after knowing everything about voodoo, and then going into reading scriptures and scriptures and scriptures. I mean, that's almost like saying that. Okay, well, sure. So you saying sorcerers didn't exist? Sorcerers, not sorcerers. Sound like I'm licking a plate. Sorcerers didn't exist, but sorcerers did exist because the same thing with Moses when he threw down a staff. His staff turned into a snake. This is written.
Right.
If you're a Christian, you believe it. And as in saying that the dark arts did the same thing and repeated it. But in this
the
case,
precursor to Ramses threw down a staff
Right.
that also turned into a snake.
right, yeah. And that's the thing about it, is that that's what gave me and the side of my family that authority, saying that God is not a respecter of man, woman, or whoever. That you don't have that. They have the authority to do the same thing. Christians don't have more authority than someone that don't believe. That's what I'm saying. Is saying that they can function. That's why they say, "Give and it shall be given back to you, pressed down, running over, shall God give into your bosom," and all like that. Rich get richer because they give. Tax purposes only, but they give because they want to lower their tax. But they're constantly giving, which they can make more money and it comes back to them. But that's the process of giving and receiving. That's a process that was already written in the Bible. They function in it, not a respecter of how it works, but that's just a function that happens, and that's works.
So, but like going back to your mom,
Back to the mom.
your mom's story. Like I hear that and I hear a story.
Okay, what's the story? The story is
No, I hear the story you told me. That's a story. That's something that you told me, and I have to, invest in what I believe or don't believe.
right.
and
You
drive my
don't.
own
You can
thing.
take. Well,
Yeah,
most of the
and
people
take it how I want.
Yeah.
But like,
Why do I believe it?
that's a good question. Yeah, sure. Why do you believe that happened?
The reason why I believe it is because I've seen too many things that is unexplained.
Okay, so let's dive into what Ronjae has seen and experienced himself. Because, trust me, my mom sounds a lot like your mom in the sense of you don't want to mess with her.
Right.
My
you
mom
don't want
is-
to mess with it because
my mom is a firecracker. And I've messed with my mom, and trust me, I regretted it. You don't mess with mama.
right.
But like, she tells me stories, these stories of her youth, and I've grown to learn that they're embellished. They're made to sound more powerful,
Right,
more
almost like the Yeti and the Bigfoot and all that stuff.
Right. So
Or
like,
Santa Claus, so you can go to bed early.
right.
And I can put your presents out, and you ain't gonna say anything against me because Santa Claus ain't real. But we can go into that one because Santa Claus has more authority. Unexplained.
Ronjae and your Santa
Okay,
Claus
forget
story.
it. Keep on going. Keep on.
So,
Don't stop it.
My point is like, at what point in time do stories become stories, and do stories become
Right, do
real?
they become real?
So like Ronjae, what is Ronjae yourself? What have you experienced? When it comes to not only a
The unexplained. I'll go with
not-
just unexplained.
well, the
because
unexplained is
when I
one way
say
to put it.
unexplained, because the chicken and putting that on, it's a part of a process. Because if somebody else did it, it's not saying that it would happen, but based upon how they like I said, my aunt would be going through that, and then she'd be praying over it. She'd do this and all. Like, it's a lot that happens with, like they say, prayer happens. Prayer means something, creation. But it's not saying that you want to do evil. But there was evil that was happening in the Bible, saying that, you know, I mean, think about it. There was a whole plague that killed all these kids. Well, that don't sound good to me.
Well, you're using the Bible to help.
That's why I said two-headed.
You're using the Bible to help reinforce that the stories of voodoo
But
are
voodoo
true.
is the dark arts, but everybody call it dark arts. But the thing about that's just like people would say they're a white witch, but they only do it for good. And then you have Wiccans, and I know a lot about that on that side too. Wiccans would say that they only believe in the power and authority that's already there. They just tap into it.
So what if you don't believe in power and authority of religious or?
Then you just function. I think you just function. That's just like bees. They flying around. They want honey. They would land on flowers. Blah 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 blah.
Well, they make honey.
Okay.
Okay. I think it's Ronjae who wants some honey, but
where they land and they make honey. That's their process. But in that process, are they commanded to do that, or were they created to do that?
Or did they evolve to do that? That's how they work. And
I believe in the part of creation. I believe that it's like saying that. Do God make bees to do that, or do they just function in their own self? But I believe in the story of the Bibles too. I believe that, and I'll just make it easier. I'll make it way easier for you to understand that, yeah, we have free will to do anything, but when there's a lesson or something that has to happen to put you on a certain path or the right way, there's an intervention that happens that you can't explain. I'll use my example. The intervention of Ronjae to have a encounter with somebody that they don't know at a park that happened. I don't know, were we married? I don't think we were married. But me and my wife at the time, we had an argument. And I know that I have a anger and a mean streak. I stopped the car in the middle of the road. I said, "I'm
Ronjae
not."
4.
Yeah. Well, no, that was a nice Ronjae. Because I didn't go off and give her a piece of my mind and threw her out the car. I said, "I gotta go." So I left. I don't know. I think I stopped off. It was somewhere around maybe Livingston, Bryce, or something like that. So I said, "I'm out. You can take the car. I don't care." I start walking towards this park area. And as I was walking, this guy that had like a red beret on. And if you're familiar with the berets, there's they call themselves the Guardian Angels. In New York, there was a group that was like ride the subways to protect people and stuff like that. When I was coming up, I was like, "Oh, the Guardian Angels, whatever." So I seen the red beret. I'm like, "Oh, wow, cool. You look like a guardian angel." As he passed me, he turned around and just said, "God can't use you with that anger." What?
He said that to you.
He said that to me. Don't know me. Never seen me. Don't know what's going on unless he's seen something. And I look at it this way because this is what I believe, that people can look at the actual spirit or the aura of a person. Right. So his answer was, "God can't use you with that anger." I was mad. I was steaming. And then I said, "What did you say?" He said, "God can't use you with the anger." I said, "Why you pick me?" But before that happened, let's back up. I'm going to back up a little bit more. Before that happened, I was sitting by a tree because I was mad. And I said, "Just take this away from me," because I know, and not throwing my, dad up under the bus. I know he had anger issues. I know that he was always mad at certain things, but not throwing him under the bus. I'm just saying is that's how I was raised. I knew that what I saw, I could repeat, and I'm not trying to repeat anything. So I sat by a tree and I said, "God, if you got anything for me, tell me now, because I can't deal." And this was after I got away from the voodoo side and I was trying to go into church. I had just got, saved and was having a better relationship with God, trying to understand him from a different aspect. And then as soon as I stood up, I started walking. And then I kind of add that, I was like, wow, guardian angel, I need me an angel. That was the guy wasn't nowhere near me when I seen it. But as he passed me, and then he turned around, he said, hey, God told me he can't use that anger. What? I said, what do you mean? He said that, well, God just told me that he can't use that anger. So I'm like, well, what that mean? He had said, that's all I know. And I said, then all of a sudden we start talking, we start getting into this whole scripture stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I don't know the person. I don't know where he came from. All I know is he came towards me while I was sitting at a tree. I stood up, started walking, trying to, get my head right. That's one incident that happened. There's multiple incidents that I can say that I've had dreams of people, and then all of a sudden I see them manifest.
And you take that guy as a sign of God.
No, I take him as a sign of getting me back on track. He just happened to be a conduit that I believe that God can just in the Bible there was a part where there was a donkey that spoke to a guy and he was beating a donkey and said the God either opened the ears of the guy to understand mule or made the mule speak in his language. Either way it goes, in a reference of scripture or Bible, that was supposed to have happened. Now, if you look at it from an aspect of voodoo or an aspect of Pentecostal, whatever is said that God did, we use it. As in saying that we latch onto it, like they say, faith without works is dead. So we believe in the faith of the nature of God and the aspect of God, whether you consider him to be Allah or this person or whatever. If you look at the Quran, you look at the Torah, you look at the Bible, you still got the first books of them. They all run in the same boat. You look at the Indian aspect of it, it's talking about the nature, as in saying the person come from the ground.
And that's the aspect I like to attach myself to. Mm-hmm. What you would call the Indian aspect. Nature is the way to follow.
Nature versus nurture.
There's a reason why the bee is attacking your flowers. Like he's collecting the pollen to make the honey to take back.
Yeah, it's not
feed
like
his colony, and we use that honey and we take that honey and we use it to sweeten our foods or whatever.
Yeah, but for the ones that like step on the bee,
there's a balance, and that's a simplistic way to think. But most answers are usually the simplest answers when you have a big question, mm-hmm. especially in relation of God and what life is. And that's why I like to, I wouldn't say adopt, but keep my mind open to that nature way of living. Right,
yeah. I mean, because you can run
and I hear your stories.
But they're just unreal.
Well, but I can relate to them. But when I relate to them in my way, that I relate to them differently.
But you wouldn't use the.
For example,
right.
There was a time in my life, my girlfriend was pregnant. I was working a job as an environmentalist, quote unquote.
What that mean? Selling weed?
No. That means I was going door to door.
Oh, that's a pharmaceutical salesman.
I was going door to door, having people sign petitions to close down plants that were causing chemical disruptions in their local atmosphere. It was causing people to have cancer and things like this. Right. But they needed petitions to close these plants down. But the tough gig about it was a lot of the people in the local area
doors out of your face.
Well, right? No, they were working at the plant we were trying to close down.
Yeah, I'm making money.
Right. And
What you
anyhow,
saying, this
so
petition?
anyhow, I felt like I was running against the wind,
Right.
and I was going through a tough time where we were living in a not so reputable place. Our apartment just got broke into. My girlfriend's pregnant and all this stuff, and I at the time I had this obsession with 4-leaf clovers. I've always had a knack for finding 4-leaf clovers. I can kind of look in a field of clovers and pick out
And
2 or
just
3
pick it right
4-leaf.
there.
I just find them.
It might be a leprechaun, but you just don't know it.
Maybe.
you might got some leprechaun in your blood. You might be Irish.
Where's my gold? So
Yeah, after your Lucky Charms?
no. So
The magic
I
is
sat there
delicious.
and I'm not a praying person. I have my story. I'm not gonna dive into it now, but it was one of the few times that I sat there and I just kind of prayed. I was like, I was sitting on the ground. I'm like, what am I doing? This job is ridiculous. I have a kid on the way. And I said, God, am I going to be okay? Just give me a sign. Who hasn't asked
Right,
for that?
yeah, give
Who
me a
hasn't asked?
sign.
Give me a sign that I'm going to be okay. And I looked down in between my legs in the grass.
4-leaf clover.
5-leaf clover.
5-leaf.
And I actually,
Wow.
I have it around here. I actually
you,
took
like-
it. I taped it. I taped it. I still have it to this day.
Wow.
This 5-leaf clover. I usually keep. That's why I pulled my wallet out earlier because I usually keep it in my wallet, but I decided not to look too far into it. But I found this 5-leaf clover, and that was my sign. Things will be okay. You'll be all right. And I think of aspects, or I think of these things, and it's so easy to be like, that was a sign from God.
Right. Yeah,
but-
a lot of people would use that. That's true. A lot
You
of
know-
people use that as in saying that, nah, that's a sign from God. Everything's going to be all right.
Right.
Everything's going to
But
be all right.
and that is definitely a highlight of my life that I like to, look upon and be like, things did get better after that. But
Right, but then you got the dark arts, which is the opposite.
well, not even the dark arts, Ronjae. I think
I ain't want to switch it, but
I think
there's
what my main takeaway from all of this is, it's what you allow yourself to attach to.
And that's-
what you
that's-
what you
that's true.
relate yourself to when certain things happen in your
Right.
life. You relate it to what you grew up knowing.
right.
Or taught, or your personal experiences that growing up that you also related to what you were taught growing
Right.
up. And I've tried to, in my later years, I've tried to separate myself from attaching to a specific thing that I was taught or not, and add it to a broader spectrum of nature, which is why I say now I kind of more believe in
More of the nature side of
Right.
The grass, the trees, the energy,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Mother Earth
Mother
and
Earth,
what
yeah.
she's trying to tell you,
Right.
or
You
what
should
have
watch
you.
Mother. Did you watch Mother?
No,
You gotta watch
I
that
know,
one, man.
you
I
keep
told
telling
you
me I
to
gotta
watch it,
that,
man. That was like the best
I-
way
I-
of explaining.
I'll tell you what. I was on Netflix or Vudu or something, and I saw Mom,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's the movie."
No, that ain't it.
that ain't it.
No, that ain't it. That's a
'cause
totally
Jennifer
different
Lawrence
one.
ain't in that one.
No, she ain't.
So
no.
anyhow, I've come to this realization that, talking to different people, and seeing how they relate what they were taught to their experiences now.
Right.
And then you go back to the bee. You go back to the bee,
Right. Yeah.
doing the pollen, making the honey.
Yeah, it's just
You know,
naturally doing what it's supposed to do, even though it probably had instructions. But I mean, what is the queen bee gonna tell you? You better come back.
Well, yeah, but
But there's-
but in that colony is that queen bee God to them?
Right, they have to be in a certain. I mean,
That's
I'm not
their
a
leader.
beekeeper,
That's
so I don't know how do they stay in a certain range of the queen that they just because I know that
well, yeah,
I think there's a
obviously
job that
there's
people
an
actually
intricate
do.
web of
Yeah,
of
there's a network
networking.
of bee conversations. Yeah.
I'm surprised Anya hasn't busted through the door talking about bees right now because this is her area of
Oh,
expertise.
that's her area of expertise.
But when you think, you think of the bee, and you think of the queen bee, they're doing, their whole life is revolved around serving that queen bee.
Right.
So what are we spending our life serving?
Right.
And that's where I start getting triggered.
Well, yeah.
About what is.
Well,
what,
also, it's
when
like you said, how
God,
are you raised?
Yeah.
What it's like. Some people have a hard way of breaking away. Because I had a difficult time breaking away from, what I believed in faith. Because my mother always said, if you hear a voice, don't answer back, because it could be a spirit trying to talk to you. They've talked to everybody down our line. They just trying to connect with you. If you hear somebody talk to you, they say, "Hey, Mom, did you call me?" Don't say yes or what, or don't respond to it as in saying you allow them to come and bother you all the time.
Right, and that's a huge part.
Yeah.
In the same realm,
the realm.
With you, I believe in some will call it an afterlife, an existence beyond existence, an energy, that we can't normally perceive in life.
Right.
And I have my own experiences with that, and there's been times where, I communicate with these things and I've chosen to block them out.
Right.
Because there is a rabbit hole of...
Right, there's a rabbit hole that...
It gets dark.
Yeah.
A very dark rabbit hole that you can do when you open yourself up to that world.
Right.
But I don't come from the same background as your mom or your family. Yeah, but I also believe that same aspect. Don't mess
with it, because it's
So you and I, two different backgrounds, two different beliefs, two different upbringings, have this same nugget of don't mess with that.
Right.
I want to take that and separate it from everything, our beliefs, my beliefs, your beliefs, separate and say, what is that?
What is don't mess with that?
What is don't mess with that? Why? Why does that exist in different planes of life,
Yeah.
And that's where I want to start investigating that in my own head. Like, what is that?
Right.
What is that aspect, when you sit... When you're sitting, home alone, and you feel something looking at you, from the darkness, what is that?
Yeah, well,
you will apply.
I would apply because I've got, like I said, my sister. She's a dream interpreter. My mother is.
I love it.
I know.
Yeah,
we talked to her. Yeah, she's in Grand Rapids, and she's a dream interpreter there. My mother had a situation where she was at work, and she channeled. And some people call them mediums, or whatever you call them. Right, medium. And she said she spoke in another language to this woman that was at her job. She was older. I think we were probably younger and stuff like that. Not younger, but probably in junior high. I think I was junior high at the time. And she said she'd do it a couple of times. She said she had an urge or an unction. She called it the unction to speak to somebody. But she just didn't want that to come up on her, that she can't speak in her own way about a person. Because there's a difference between speaking and saying what the person that they're feeling versus speaking in another tongue or another language or the person's voice. As in saying the vocal cords, as in the person can actually take over your body and speak to the person. Yeah. So that's what my mother, she does 3 different things. She can either tell the person what they hear, look at a person and tell them everything is going to be all right. Their future, as in saying that, yeah, I see you here. I see this happening. I see that. Or my mother would say that somebody wanted to talk to her. My son has it too because he's seen different things. He would see, I said, he was like, he said, you see that? And I think he was 8 years old. He said, you see that at the bottom of the stairs? I said, what's at the bottom of the stairs? Oh, it's a lion at the bottom of the stairs. I said, you see a lion? Oh, yeah, he's nice. And then he wake up in the middle of the night and come in the room and said, yeah, there's a fly with a lion head that's right on your arm. And I'm like, is he trying to bite me? Because those matter. That matters. Is he trying to bite me? Is he trying to harm me? Or is he trying to protect me? Two totally different things. So you have to know what to ask, how that works. And like I said, he can see. It was one time he said that he seen an owl on the chair, which I couldn't see. My sister seen an angel over behind me, which I couldn't see. And like I said, everybody has something in our family that's different. And I think my brother is more like, he's like an intercessor or something like that. He can.
But they attach that to what they were taught in their upbringing.
Well,
do they not? I mean, do they not attach that to
now?
The
it's
voodooism?
Different. Well, the difference is that I didn't tell my nephews about what went on about our upbringing, but when they were upstairs and when they were younger, they would go up and they say, "Oh yeah, let's see the shoes dance again." So they would go, because we knew that there was spirits that was in our house. Trust me, I was raised up with a lot of stuff. We'd have people walking down the street. We had 3 people walking down the street, and we look out the window seeing them, and they say, "Yeah, come and see these people don't watch this." It was 3 women with black outfits in the middle of the rain walking down the street. This was in Louisiana, and then all of a sudden they just disappear. Me seeing this is just direct experience. Yeah. My nephew, he's 30 right now. 30, no, he's older, 32. When they were small, they would always go up to our house and they have the shoes. It was 4 of them. My twin nephews plus their younger brother and then my older niece. She's like 35 right now. They would always go up under the bed because they want to see the shoes dance. They look up under the bed and then the shoes are moving and shaking. I didn't see it, but the difference is that they experienced as they're younger. They said, "I can remember this to this day."
Together.
They experienced together, so
it's confirmation,
right? And the same thing, it's almost like you have confirmation when something happened twice. Like my brother had a dream and I had a dream at the same time, and the same dream, same thing about we were drilling something. We were drilling a hole in this belt to try to put something in it. All of a sudden the smoke started coming up. I had a dream that it smoked up and blew up. My brother was drilling. He's like, "Oh, we need to stop." I'm like, "Why you say stop?" I had a dream about it. I'm like, "Yeah, I had the same dream." That's how we confirm that we had the same dream.
Right. So you take that and you apply what you were taught up.
Well, I can't explain how we gonna have the same dream.
Well, no. That's that.
Right. How
that's
we were
not
raised.
What I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I think there's this common core that everybody shares, and your upbringing will allow you to open your mind to one thing or another. And when you experience this one thing or another, you attach it to it.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
You attach it to what you were brought up knowing. So like you experience something, your family experienced something, they attach it to, like a voodoo.
Right, I would attach it to entity or right. In that case, because there's a point where I remember I've had things happen to me where I turn around and I'm seeing a person next to me, and then I wake up and they're not there. I'm watching with my eyes. I could sworn I'm awake,
right?
And the person is next to me, and then I turn all the way around and they're not there. So even though that I had raised up in this realm of how to deal with it, but then I get to the point of getting saved in the church and denounce all voodoo, as in saying that that's bad stuff. Even though my mom come and she said, "It ain't all bad." I'm like, "Mom, not what I'm learning." So I went deep into church, Bible, belief, and all this stuff. It just so happened that when I went into it, like, wow, that's almost the same thing.
Yeah. It's actually quite incredible, like talking to you, and I'll talk to my mother, who is 100% Christian all the way, and the stories you guys, what you're telling me, what she tells me, my own experiences are all very similar stories, but we attach it to these different beliefs or different what have yous, and this is where I come to my naturalistic mindset. You know, like there's this common core that of things that people are experiencing. Their mind is open to this, that, or the other, or closed off to this, that, and the other. And it comes down to with how you were raised or what you were taught when you experienced something.
Right.
And it's almost like trying to de-religionize, you know, that experience,
right.
and just take it like, okay, there's something natural happening here.
Right, back to the B. As in
Back
saying
to
it's
the B.
just doing what
Exactly.
it normally do.
It's
You
doing
have that
what
authority. It's just saying that how do you, you know, do spirits come to you naturally or do you summon them?
Right. And what do we find scary and why? You know,
yeah,
like,
what do you find scary and why?
what's scary and why is it scary?
Right.
You know, I mean, there's certain people, you know, they hear, you know, a noise in the other room, they're scared to death.
Right.
There's other people.
Me, I kind of respond differently. It was like, my mother always told me, say, get on away from here. I ain't got time for it. It don't matter if it was a broom that probably was set the wrong way and it fell, or a glass that was on the edge of the table and it fell. She always say, get away from around me. I don't got time for you. Go on back where you go into your dry place.
Right.
That's what she say.
Right. And my mom has done her version of that in situations.
I bind that in Jesus' name. Speak into it.
There it is. Right.
That's how it is.
Speak into it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I experienced this, and things started like becoming alive. You know, my dreams started becoming very vivid.
Right.
That's
because
when I
you
started,
tapped into something.
Right.
That
And
now you like, wow.
I realized that I tapped into something
because you're aware of it.
and I wanted to tap into it more.
Right.
And it lasted for about 3 months, and many vivid dreams, many experiences, and I was talking to my mom a lot about it, and you know, especially because she's the one who related, you know, that story with my Uncle Charles, and I got very sick. Just coincidence, maybe, you know, I got very ill, like the flu or something like that, and my mom came over. You know, no, let me take care of my baby boy, you know, and I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up and she was praying. Like, I was kind of like in and out of sleep, and I walked in. She had her hand on me, she was praying.
Right,
you know,
praying, laying hands
and
on you to transfer.
I went back to sleep. The next day, I'm like, Mama, were you praying over me? She goes, yeah, I was praying that all this stuff would just go away, because she knew what I was experiencing. And all the stuff went away. And I was so mad at her. I was like, Mom, I was actually trying to go into that world.
Right.
She goes, yeah, I know you were. That's why I prayed over you when you were weak. You know, she's like, that's why. But it was that it was in that same light,
right,
that you experienced. You know, you know.
Yeah, that's.
But the point is, there's this core thing, and you use these different elements that come to a common thing, you know, and that's the what you found between two different worlds, you know, voodoo, Christianity, and you found that there's a commonality between them.
No, that the commonality from the voodoo part, they never told me about it, but I learned more of it on the spiritual realm from the Christianity part, because there was a part where it says you have to have a lot of protein, because you can go in this is from Pentecostal belief, because there's a lot of stuff that's written in the Bible talk about, you know, how to be energetic, or because the difference is saying that, what I believe is saying that, and this might sound strange to you, because on the voodoo side, I can do an outer body experience or teleportation or astral projection. On the Christian side, if I'm summoned to go into war while I'm sleeping, I can actually go into war and then come back into my body.
That's astral projection.
That's astral projection.
That's
but
is.
From a Christianity point of view, it's saying that, I remember reading the book, it said that you need to make sure you have a good electrolyte. You go to bed energetic, have your electrolytes, you have your protein for energy, because sometimes you might wake up and you're tired and you don't know why. Well, your body could have already been in a war, and then it comes back and you're tired. It's a lot that I studied on that aspect from a Christian point of view to try to tie it into there, but they never tell you about it on the voodoo side. But it says that you can actually, because I remember my mother was always talking about, she was trying to check up on us. I'm like, what do you mean check up on you? Oh yeah, I did an astral projection. I was gonna use a cat or your dog, or because you can actually jump into other animals and use the eyes or the sights to look at what's going on. Deeper than.
Well, no, but it all ties in to my main point of attaching it to one thing,
or the other.
So, in my experience, I've tried to detach it.
Right.
From Christianity or
detach it from Christianity
that, or the other,
but where would you learn it from?
My own experience, and derive my own experience just from this is how life is.
Right, because you would take it from the naturalistic part, as in saying I was born this way. I have the ability to do this. I don't attach it from here. I don't attach it from there. Because you got, I know Wiccans. They deal with the crystals and they draw the power from the crystals and stuff like that. But that's something I don't know much about.
You brought up mediums earlier.
Yeah, mediums.
There's this medium. Her name is Amy Allen, I think.
Okay.
One of the few mediums that actually follow, on podcasts or, she has, shows or whatever. Mm. I don't really believe mediums. I'm very skeptical of mediums. But
call me now, Cleo.
Right, yeah, Miss Cleo. There's
Cleo.
There's something about this specific medium that I get. I understand. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact that she doesn't try to prove anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. She will tell you her experience to a point. Mm-hmm. And then she'll snuff it and she'll be like, well, that's all I'm comfortable talking about. I don't want to disrespect, the dead and all this stuff. Well, she was asked her beliefs, her afterlife beliefs. Mm-hmm. They said, well, obviously, you're related to, the dead and, you have all these experiences. What are your beliefs in the afterlife? Or they asked her, what are your religious views, pretty much? What do you believe? And she refused to answer the question directly. She's like, I'm not going to tell you what I believe. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you that I know if you believe in something or whatever you feel or whatever you take in from life, and that's what you let yourself become immersed in, that's what you're going to take with you. She's like, let's say you spend your life as a good Christian woman, and you live all the Christian ways and you do good by people and you're comfortable with that and you're confident in that. When you die, you're going to live in your Christian heaven that you've laid out for yourself. And then she went on to talk about, the rabbis and, Muslims. And she goes, if you live those lives in an honest and, caring fashion, you'll live that out. But if you live your life in a, constant anxiety and constant worry and concern and, you never really get settled, with whatever happened in your life, you will also live that in the afterlife. What you believe, what you think is more powerful than you understand, and that's what you're going to take with you. Mm-hmm. And I found that very impactful. And that's why, I kind of stripped away all these other elements, and
the
said,
other beliefs.
It comes down to what's in you. Right.
What do you attach yourself or
what are you going to take with you emotionally? Is how I took that. What are you happy with yourself? Are you okay with the person that you are? Are you okay with the way that you treat people? Are you okay with the way you interpret people? Are you a good person? All these little aspects, all these little things, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about life, how you feel like you're handling it. Am I a good person? Can you look into yourself and say, am I a good person?
Right.
This is what you're going to take with you. You're going to create your own hell or heaven. You know, and that is one of the most impactful things I've ever taken from any medium that I've ever heard. You know, because you have this Miss Cleo's out there.
Yeah,
you know,
call me now.
Call me now. Yeah, 223.
223 555.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, but
you have that medium, and then you have this person who could easily manipulate people that are hanging on to her word because they just happen to believe in this, that,
well,
or the
that's
other.
the other part. When you say manipulation, that goes into when you have people, like you said, what do you believe? What do you hang on to? What do you know? And even in the church itself, there's a lot of people that hang on to the ideal of faith, as in saying that, you know, I know some churches, they believe into, you know, the prosperity preaching. And prosperity preaching was saying that, you know, you can pay your way into, you know, you give and give. We're going to pray for you. We're going to give you some blessed water.
These actions that you are doing will pay your way into the afterlife you want.
Right, yeah.
As opposed
to the point where you have
your actual integrity,
right. And the thing is saying that, you know, you might, and I'm not knocking on any churches or anything like that. I'm well aware of everything. So if you want to come at me, come at me. So the whole ideal of saying that I spent too many years in this.
Who do you think listen to this, man?
Well, I don't know.
I got 70 viewers.
It's gonna be more after this one. So
hopefully.
I'm speaking into it. So the ideal of saying that, you know, you've got some of the churches, you know, they start saying, you know, come up here and get some of this blessed water, a little vial. You paying, you know, give $100 for this vial of water. They say it's been blessed by some monk or I don't know. But basically, you paying into this with the belief that when you drink this water, you're going to be superimposed by God to have all the blessings that's coming to you. And I don't think that that's fair. I believe that, yeah, they can believe that, but the faith of a person can get you to that one without that one. Like what's happening right now. Ain't nobody going to church. All they doing is sitting at home and watching it on YouTube or they watching it on TV. So the laying on them hands. They have to. Right. And the thing about it is that I go back to where I was raised, is saying that, you know, as a priest of the home, the priest is actually creating that atmosphere of the home, and everything happens there. And then you step out and you know, and then you create another atmosphere. But I just don't believe
applying what you've learned.
Right, I'm applying what I just don't believe. I believe that, you know, the oil and the water and stuff, but some of these prosperity preachers, they go a little bit too far. They got people that's hanging on the thread of their life, and they will give the last dime that they have to the church.
They're preying on people.
Right, yeah.
They're preying on people and their emotions and
right,
their
because
beliefs.
the people don't believe they have that authority to get to that level with God. They figure that this pastor or this priest or whatever has more insight. Because I remember this guy, we was driving in Texas, and we just went to a church, and he said, "Oh, you go to our church, you must got a lot of faith." He was speeding, and he got pulled over by the cop. He said, "Man, start praying. Please pray, because I know you're going to make this cop go away." I'm like, and at the time, I'm not knocking it, because at the time, I felt like I did have that authority to tell, you know, say, God, in my favor. Cop came up to him, gave him his license, and drive safely. Did I have anything to do with it? I'm not saying I did, but I prayed.
Right, and
we was holding hands and please, guys.
You know,
that's crazy as you won't get. But the thing about it is that people will get to a level of what they think will work, versus saying that the bee flying around landing on flowers because they just want to. If we would have got caught because we was speeding, sit up there and see what he gonna do. That's the nature of it.
Landing on flowers and doing all that.
Pollinating. That's part of the nature of things.
Because they're supposed to.
Well,
As
they
opposed
just
to
going
what?
around saying that I'm brushing through these flowers and stepping on them. I got pollen on my feet. Don't even know it. You think that they know they got pollen on their feet and pollinate? Well, that's what I'm saying. The bees ain't worried about it. It's like I'm just sucking on nectar. And I love nectar. And they jumping from one flower to another. Ooh, nectar, 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 nectar. Ooh, nectar. And nectar. And they got pollen on their feet. And they pollinating. And you think they know what they doing? They just naturally.
I can't say. I can't
it's just
speak
a
for the
natural
bee.
process.
It's a natural process.
I mean, I don't even know why they say birds and the bees, because birds ain't got nothing to do with this thing.
you jump topics.
Because
like nobody's business.
What's the bird process? Tell me, because I mean,
know.
I get the bees process. They pollinating flowers and make them but the birds
I couldn't tell you.
sitting on eggs, that don't happen until later. Okay, back up. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all, that's why I always say at the beginning of my show, welcome to my world.
So anyway, I think what we can take away from this is anybody who wants to explain the birds and the bees. To Ronjae,
just bring them on.
Please leave a comment below.
Bring a comment below. Text, email, show up at my show. Bring schematics. All the above, because I didn't have to.
Personal photos are welcome.
I don't know. That might not be good. Personal photos. I mean, I know how it happened. I'm just saying the bird part. Explain the bird.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Bird. I get the bees. I don't get the birds.
So
chirp, 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 chirp.
I take this in my world. I've taken this mentality of spirituality and afterlife and all this stuff.
Got another one of them in there.
No, you can have the rest of this one.
Okay. Well, I don't worry about it. You got.
Give me your glass.
You got COVID? Well, we gonna find out. We gonna have a COVID-created party. Well, you gotta give me the whole thing. You gotta. Thank you, Mr. Cade. You good people.
But
yeah, let me eat my Scooby snacks.
I see the chart jumping every time you chew.
Oh, it is. Wow. Sorry about that, y'all. You get what you get, and don't throw a fit.
All right, Ronjae. I'm going to sum this up.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost 11. I got to get up. Not too far in the future. My spirituality comes from learning from others. You know, like hearing what you have to say. You know about your voodoo. Like, I find that stuff very intriguing, and I don't naysay it. You know, but I do ask for, well, show me some evidence, some
right,
some
levitate something, show me something
but that's only
speak
because
into your spirit that nobody would know.
But every story that I tell is also
turn you into a zombie.
Every story that I tell is also a story. You know, my story about the water under the bridge. Right. Is a story, just like your mom's
right. Yeah,
bit
it's just
and the bird poop and
right.
That's her story. That's
right.
something that
an experience that happened with them, but never happened to you.
Right.
So,
but the story that did happen,
happened to
me is a story to you.
Right.
You know, and I like to take these experiences and absorb them. Mm-hmm. You know, and come to my own conclusion about things based on my own ideologies, about, God, religion,
right.
All these things. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't believe in religion. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to me. Right. But I do believe that there's something else. and I don't know what that other thing is. I don't know what that something else is. I don't understand it, and I don't want to pretend like I do understand it. And in my world, attaching a certain religious or whatever to it is me trying to justify the unexplainable.
Right.
And that's how I live my life. That's how I live that aspect of my life. Right. And I find your experiences and the things that that have made Ronjae. I find those things very intriguing and very that's something that I'm going to take with me in the future. And when I hear something similar or hear something I can adapt that to, I'll take that story in my head and well, you know what, this ties into this or this doesn't tie into this. And I just kind of form my own little world of whatever. Bottom line is, we are talking about something that has been discussed for hundreds, thousands of years.
Right.
And there's no answer. There's no definitive, this is it. This is what the answer is. We all come to our own answers, and I think that's a very beautiful thing.
Right.
And I think it's a thing that needs to be respected. I think when people take those those thoughts and feelings and those experiences and they tell somebody that they shouldn't feel or you're wrong for thinking or feeling that, that's not how life works.
Right.
Or that's not how life should work, rather. And I respect conversations like this with people that I care about.
Right.
And I've enjoyed our conversation on this topic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And I want a part 2 because I think we could dive more into the ghost stories of this.
Yeah.
And I'm only stifling it because I do have to get up early.
Right, yeah. Maybe
but I think we should continue.
We didn't even get into the Santa Claus.
I think we should do... Oh, yeah, your Santa Claus story is crazy. Dude, I think we should do a part 2. I want to bring you back in. And we should do this should be Stevie and Ronjae
nothing
part
was
1.
related towards music. That was a breath of.
We didn't even talk
it's
about
not saying
music.
a breath of fresh air, but the thing about it is that
music.
we didn't even touch on that just till now.
No.
But how I got into it, that's phase 2, right. Or part 2. Yeah.
I think I want to bring you back in. I want to do a part 2, because there's so much you and I just talk about genuinely. Just on the ride home or after a show, or we'll go have a drink or something.
Right.
We come from 2 different walks of life.
2 different walks of life.
Cut from 2 different cloths.
Yeah.
But we have this weird magnetic connection that.
Yeah, especially when we on the stage, it's like I say something crazy and you say something to respond to it. That's the crazy part is that one thing. I know you. It's not saying that you. It's not like you would normally do it, but all of a sudden I'm just throwing something out there just to see what flies. I like to throw stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. If it don't, I'm like, it's gonna stick. It's gonna stick, and I'm gonna make it stick. And that's just me. But that's what's the yin and the yang, because it's like you flow with everything that I would go with, and it's like you have a way of communicating with the crowd with song, and then communicating with the crowd and talking with them that I don't. I throw stuff out there to just throw them off because I do that on purpose. I like doing that. That's just me.
Well, yeah, but that could also be retranslated into the same exact thing that you just said, but on a different spectrum. You have a way of talking to the crowd.
Well, once I get out there,
off the stage,
behind that mic, I'm saying stuff. It's like, what did I say that for? In my head. But then I gotta
when you
flow
get
with
out there, like if I'm out in the crowd, I'm like you. I mean, why did I say that to that person?
Right.
I'm gonna get back in front of that, behind that microphone and shut the fuck up. But you go out there and you talk to people and
it's like
you
I
bring
have
them
these
in. And
conversations.
Anya even said that. She goes, Ronjae's really personable.
Yeah.
He's almost the spokesman.
Yeah,
he's the salesman of
I
the
like
show.
jumping into people's head and get them, because I figured they come out there for entertainment, and you're doing what you're doing on stage. We do that, and then when I get it, have a conversation with them. It's like I find out, how the day was, how the day went, and they say, oh yeah, when you gonna be here? You two play together? Oh, you do such a great job together, and blah 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 blah. So it's like just getting out there and just talking with them, because I mean, I did it for almost 12 years. They call it the warm fuzzies. That was my job, is to learn how to conversate with people you don't even know. Yeah. I'm going to managers, directors, and stuff like that, and prove to them that I can do this job. Not prove to them that I can do the job. I've been talking to them for the longest. I come in, and now I have the conversation with them and saying that, I got you.
Yeah.
Go do your work.
Yeah, you make them see that I suck at that.
Yeah, and that's with me. I'm like,
unless I'm behind the microphone.
Because the thing about it is that you are you're the captain. So say I am the captain now. Yeah. So that was the whole thing, is saying that it's like you drive, and even though I use that terminology of driving the bus, and I just stick my head out the window just to get some air, I love it, because the thing about it is that as you drive the bus, I'm going where you want me to go. I'm just grabbing people by the neck and taking them with us.
Well, what's a driver without a passenger? What's a captain without his crew?
Yeah,
it's a yin and the yang.
It's a yin and a yang. Yeah. Yin and the yang, or is it yin and the yang?
I believe it to be yin and yang.
Yin.
Because it's
you offended anybody in that process.
Well, it's y. It's yin. Yin. And yang?
Maybe it's yin.
What? I know you keep saying that, but it's
yin.
No, it's yin.
No, it's yin.
Look it up.
Oh, you going to go and ask an English speaking person to say yin?
You're going to be asking white Google.
check the Ebonics part. It's yin.
I'm just going to cast the
yin. 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 They're probably, what is he doing over there? Oh, they can actually say it.
Yin and yang.
No. You just say, I know how it's spelled, but how does it sound? Do they got a vocal?
Well, it don't have a G on it. You always pronounce it yin.
No, I said yin.
Sound like you said.
I didn't say G. I said yin.
Sound like a G. Sound like
no, I said yin.
Sound like a silent G.
No. Yin. Yin.
Oh, Ronjae.
Okay.
I'm going to end this one.
All right, we're going to end this one.
We're going to do a part two.
We're
going to do a part two, because you and I,
Yeah, bro. This can be a, yeah. It's yin.
All right, everybody, follow Ronjae. Ronjae,
Music. RonjaeMusic.com, which is RonjaeMusic. RonjaeMusic.com. That's the one you got. Just go ahead and put Ronjae, RonJae. If you can't spell music, go ahead and Google it. And then you can get my schedule on there. You can get some of the music. Everything's free. At first, I was like, I'm going to give me some money on this thing. But no, everything's free. And hit me up. You can put a personal message in there. I'll get it on my phone. I can respond back to it. Requests of, if you want to request me and Stevie to play at a place, drop it in there too. Actually, remember that dude from Chicago?
Nope.
Okay, we were at
that's your territory.
Well, yeah, no,
people and shit.
Yeah, the cat from Chicago. He had said, "So do you all play out here a lot?" He came from Chicago. He came up Chicago, Illinois.
No, what show?
Oh, we went to Hocking Hills Winery.
The last show.
The last show we had. Oh. Yeah, and I said, I'm on Ronjae. Yeah,
the one guy.
And you said, if you need to look at the schedule, just go ahead and go onto Ronjae.com.
Yeah, because I didn't have a
Man,
card.
that place been blowing up. It's like it's another part of Chicago that hit me up, another part of Illinois, because everything's free, so they can put it in the playlist. If you wanted, I put songs that I kind of like grouped together. So that's why I was like, well, maybe I need to put more of the collaboration music on there so they can hear our collaboration music, as in saying the collaborations. Because I remember it was one person from Australia that hit me up and said, "Oh, I'm using yours so I can go to work." So I have 3 songs in there. They can just put it in rotation. They play it over and over. Yeah, Australian dude hit me up. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all free.
Well, you provide a good platform for that.
Yeah, I mean, you can hit
that's
me
something
up.
I'm struggling with at the moment.
Well, you got this platform. I think right now this is ideal for any musicians that want to come out. Not just musicians, but artists that want to get beyond the music. I guess that should be beyond the music. That's what it should be.
Ronjae trying to rebrand me.
Yeah, I mean, get beyond the music because we barely got into the music, and I'm fine with it because there's so much deeper things of a person when you go to a show that you may be playing the music, but when you start talking, what are you talking about? You ain't talking about music all the time. You can't.
We didn't even talk about music once.
Yeah, I mean,
until now.
Yeah, when I talk to these people, when I go out there and just meet and greet the people and stuff like that, they always say, "Oh, I love your music." I'm like, that's all right. And then we start getting into, what get you out here? Yeah. Oh, you had a bad day. Oh, really? Your cat died?
And you start diving into
then you start diving into conversation, and that's how you get to know people. You get...
So what you do with people on the regular is what I'm pretty much...
You doing on stage.
No, is what I'm pretty much banking on this podcast being.
Oh, okay.
Diving into people.
Right, diving into the person,
on stage, I just copy and paste things.
No, copy and paste.
I suck on
Plagiarize.
stage. I've learned what people like to hear.
This is a master plagiarizer.
All right, everybody.
You get a degree with it. Hey, look, I got a degree by plagiarizing. Now you can't take my degree back.
Ronjae, I love you, brother.
Hey, love you, man. I appreciate it.
We're gonna do a part 2 because we extra like that. Good night, everybody. See you.
Hey.